and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
First off, I guess, when did you find out about Steve? How were you informed?
About 1:15, I woke up from my nap and turned to the right and seen it on ESPN.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a Wednesday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco and Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you the next 4 hours. A lot of stuff to get to today. And things added on in the last 15 minutes or so. First segment.
Gonna rumple up. Yeah.
Here we go.
What are we gonna talk about today?
First segment. And gun prep work.
I was so excited to talk about Rashad Fenton for 4 hours.
Well, we have traded the Rashad Fenton and the World Series conversation and the trade deadline improvements from different teams conversation for a conversation about college basketball. So the news is, as it just came down, we'll set up the show for you. We've got Cynthia Frelund coming up at 11 o'clock, NFL Network analytics expert. We got the Chiefs press conferences today, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and TBD. Assuming Patrick Mahomes will talk about the Kadarius Toney. We'll react to the press conference. We'll also hang out with Mick Shaffer in the 1 o'clock hour. Some shot clock reviews as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be part of the show. 913-912-4810. Text line to join us, and I'm sure it'll be level-headed today. I'm sure the reactions will be. Here's the thing about the news that came down. If you're just tuning in, Bill Self and Curtis Townsend have been suspended for 4 games. The first 4 games of the season for KU. They get in action, they start action on Thursday against Penn State, but that is not the regular season. The first 4 games for the Jayhawks that Norm Roberts will be the acting head coach because Bill Self and Curtis Townsend will be suspended for is starting November 7th through November 18th. That is Nebraska-Omaha, North Dakota State, the Champions Classic against Duke, and then Southern Utah. 3 of those 4 being a home game, and then that Duke game being played in Indianapolis, I believe. So either way, the Champions Classic, that's the main game he will miss. That's the big deal that people have talked about in, okay, he's going to miss 4 games. He'll miss that Duke game. Here's my initial take on this. There is no suspension or penalty from the NCAA, and this is not the NCAA, this is self-imposed. I should point that out. Self-imposed KU and also recruiting restrictions, which we've already talked about back in the summer. There is no penalty from KU or the NCAA below a postseason ban and a banner coming down and like a full season suspension for Bill Self that will satisfy those outside of Lawrence or non-KU fans. There is no penalty more than recruiting restrictions or a suspension of some sort for the coaches that will satisfy KU fans that won't feel like the NCAA is overstepping their bounds. Going outside of what their jurisdiction should be, a severe or harsh or more punitive punishment than is deserved. I don't think we'll ever have a middle ground where both sides will go, yep, seems about right. Seems about right. Oh, that trade, they got that for this first, for that round. Seems about right. Okay, let's move on. It's not going to happen. So that's the first part. Second part, it's self-imposed. This is not the NCAA. So the reaction that I've seen on Twitter, which is surprising, of those that are, oh, NCAA really got him. That's it? They really got him. Well, this isn't the NCAA. This is Kansas. And if you think Kansas is going to give Bill Self a year-long suspension and take themselves out of the NCAA tournament, then you are foolish. Then I have some swampland to sell you. That's beautiful. Let me tell you, beautiful. That's not going to happen.
If they did suspend him for the year, I'm sure the Nets would get him.
Better choice than whatever they're getting. At least
It's true.
At least Bill Self is accused of giving some extra benefits to players, which is now okay by the NCAA. Which is the great, the hilarious part of this whole thing is that press conference took place so long ago that in that time, the transfer portal has been wide open. Players have gotten extra year of eligibility. And NIL is passed to where they are setting up $1 million deals for top 10 basketball recruits right now. You in here for some marijuana? First thing that comes to my mind, I don't know why, in the Half-Baked when he was at the Alcoholics or Addiction Anonymous. I'm addicted to... You in here for marijuana? That's it? Hold on, $50,000? That's it? $20,000? A car? That's it? That guy's getting $1 million. Miami's paying dudes $800,000. So that's the ironic part of the whole thing. It's self-imposed. No pun intended by a lot of the jokes that are out there. The NCAA will still hand down a punishment of some sort. Part of it is, okay, we will hit our foot with a hammer so that you don't shoot us in the foot. That's part of it. It's part of the thought process behind this whole thing. But the NCAA, just as your parent would be, or a parent of a child that says, okay, son, daughter, what do you think the punishment should be? You're obviously going to be punished. What should it be? And you're like, look, he's going to be, honey, he's going to be grounded for 2 days. I think I should be grounded for 2 days. That's a good start. That's a good start. You know what? I appreciate it. We've actually talked about it in 3 days. 3 days is what we've talked.
We were going to say 3.
Yeah, you said 2. It's a good start.
You know, we were going to say 4. And because you said 2, I respect that. We'll make it 3.
That's right. That's right. Wow, that was pretty spot on. But we can't let him think that he's just going to start dictating his own punishments. That's not going to happen.
Do we even know exactly what he's in trouble for? No, but he said 2 days, so we should definitely make it at least 3.
Doesn't matter. He feels really bad about it, that he's going to be grounded for 2 days. No iPad for 2 days? That guy's going to be in hell. All right? So that's part of the strategy, too. This is not going to be, at least from my standpoint and my view on this, it's not going to be KU self-imposes, therefore the NCAA says, okay, cool, you did that. We'll take it easy on you now. No, that's not the case. What this is KU acknowledging, yeah, there's going to be a punishment of some sort. Mm-hmm. Bill Self will be suspended for a certain amount of games. There will be recruiting restrictions that will be there. But if they suspend him for 10 games, we're going to go ahead and take out 4 of them right now. Mm-hmm. And if they suspend him for 10 games at the end of this season, then he's going to have 6 to start the 2023 season in the non-conference. And if you're looking at the schedule this year, just saying, okay, what if he was, suspended for 6 games this year? If just using round numbers, it would be UNO, North Dakota State, Duke, Southern Utah, NC State, and Texas Southern would be the games. If you're saying, well, he might be, suspended for 10, let's take 4 right now, and then maybe 6. Next year, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 9, whatever it might be. So it's part of the strategy. They're going to get recruiting restrictions. We already talked about this over the summer in like July or August, late July, when the news came out that Bill Self and Curtis Townsend hadn't been at any of the open periods for the AAU summer open evaluations that were there. And we had the discussion like, okay, well, they are self-imposing recruiting restrictions because they're going to get them of some sort. So KU saying Bill Self and Curtis Townsend have been suspended for 4 games and there are recruiting restrictions that are applied to said coaches. I think the recruiting restrictions have already taken place from what they have self-imposed, and now these 4 games will take place for their self-imposed penalty. The NCAA will still come down with whatever penalty they want to come down with. And Kansas will just take whatever is added on to this. I don't think this is, and it shouldn't be viewed as KU is doing this so that they are saying to the NCAA, we're cooperating here. They're not cooperating. They're just acknowledging there's going to be a suspension, and we'll take some of it right now.
They've learned their lesson too much to know that cooperating buys you nothing.
No.
The NCAA has proven that. The cooperation buys you nothing.
And even and this to me isn't even cooperating.
Right.
This is just getting out ahead of the posse that's heading to town. That's all this is take some of the penalty now, because whenever they come down with their penalty structure of a show cause or a number of game suspension for Bill Self or Curtis Townsend, then you've already taken up a few of them. And the NCAA will count those. So they won't go, you've been suspended 10 games. Sorry, you gave yourself a 4-game suspension. That doesn't count. Sorry, it's still 10. It would be 10 games. You've served 4. You have 6 more games that you will be suspended for. And maybe KU was worried that, what if the punishment comes down in the middle of the season? I know that Jeff Goodman tweeted out, or, Nicole Arbach is tweeting it out, that the expectation is at the end of this season they will receive their punishment. NC State got theirs December 21st of 2021. I know Mark Gottfried wasn't there. I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Early, so maybe Orlando Early, whatever it might have been. The assistant coach.
Coach Early,
that was given a show cause. He was not there either, but they handed down the suspension in the middle of December, late December for NC State. So while there may be an expectation that it'll happen at the end of the season, we're going to go with a timeline that the NCAA may have given somebody somewhere behind the scenes, because they've given no timeline at any other point in this. There was a thought that right before the postseason was going to start, that Bill Self was going to be suspended for a number of games. He was going to miss the Big 12 tournament because of a suspension. He might miss the first weekend of the NCAA tournament because of a suspension, because it's going to come down anytime soon. It sometime real soon. It's right around the corner.
Any minute now.
And yet now it'll be at the end of the season. Sure. You go with that. I'll go with you don't know when it's actually going to happen. It might be the end of the season. It might be tomorrow. But if he is going to be suspended for an amount of time, and there's a chance it happens in the middle of the season, you'd like to mitigate how many games Bill Self and Curtis Townsend are going to be out if it's in the middle of the Big 12 season. Getting this team ready to go when you are restructuring, regrouping, you lose a number of players that were part of and viewed as the program, Ochai and McCormick and Brown, those guys that were such the fabric of the previous 3-4 years at KU, that those guys are gone. You're replacing the talent, and you're replacing those guys that were sort of the culture of KU. And what you're trying to mitigate is missing a month and a half for Bill Self when he's trying to build this team, and you would have Norm Roberts then as the acting coach if Bill Self and Curtis Townsend are both suspended, not around the program. You've got Norm Roberts and others that are there coaching, getting guys ready to go, no contact with Bill Self and all of that stuff in the suspensions. This won't stop the NCAA from giving whatever penalty they want to give. I don't know what that will be. Before the IARP, I was pretty sure what the penalty was going to be. They were going to get at least 1 year postseason ban. The 2018 Final Four banner was going to come down. There was going to be a monetary fine. There was going to be recruiting restrictions. There were going to be scholarships lost. There was going to be a suspension for the coaches, Bill Self and Curtis Townsend. Those things were going to happen. Look at what happened to Oklahoma State. They were not part of the IARP, and they got a postseason ban. NC State had more egregious acts, and they got the coaches involved were given show cause, and they're not coaching because the IARP ruling, and I can't remember the lady's name, but the quote that was the money quote for anybody involved with KU or paying attention or just wanting to see what happens with the Jayhawks That quote was, "We do not want to punish the players for something that took place when none of them were there." I know the NCAA is not consistent. The consistent part of the NCAA is their inconsistencies when it comes to rulings and when it comes to penalties and when it comes to restrictions and things like that. But the IARP is not connected to the NCAA. It is an independent council that is made up of those outside of the NCAA. They are appointed, and then they view it through the lens of maybe common sense. I don't know, because that's lacking in the NCAA. So their view was, why would we punish these players? They had nothing to do with it. That doesn't make any sense, which is what a lot of people have said for a while. What do you punish? And even scholarship reduction, that's punishing players. It's not punishing the KU players, but it's a trickle-down effect. If KU goes from 13 scholarships to 8, that's 5 scholarships that KU does not give out. 5 players that would be at KU that are now somewhere else. And those 5 players somewhere else are then 5 less players that would have been at that school and 5 less players at the school that would have been there. And it trickles down to you just have 5 less Division I scholarships you have given out or have allotted to players that could have a Division I scholarship and are now at Division II or 1AA, which are fine. Good programs. Division II, fine place to play basketball. But that's also a punishment to a player, just not the current players. But when they came out and said, we aren't going to punish the current players for something they had nothing to do with, that was a huge, momentous day for KU's basketball program. Because based on, and I know we don't really talk about precedent, we don't talk about consistency, but what we had seen in the past, the at least minimum was you're going to have a 1-year postseason ban. Sorry, kids that are there. You can transfer somewhere else. If you've got 1 year of eligibility remaining and that team has a postseason ban coming up, you are free to transfer anywhere else. And guess what? You don't have to sit out a year. Well, it doesn't matter now. You can go and transfer without sitting out a year. That was going to be the minimum. I don't know that that's going to happen anymore. Based on NC State, it doesn't seem like that would happen. It's going to piss off those at Oklahoma State. But that's where it almost felt like going to the IARP felt like it was going to be more punitive to those programs than dealing with the NCAA. Because remember, they created this whole, Rice Commission to figure out how do you clean up college athletics and the seedy underbelly of these high school kids that are getting
Gasp.
Hold on, they're getting money for for a talent?
No.
Hold on. They are viewed as a commodity that somebody can make money off of, and they're offered what would be fair market value considering other people are also in the market for that player. This can't happen.
I do declare.
This is ridiculous. Okay?
It's unacceptable.
Because I am a believer in what this country was built on, and that is everybody gets the exact same no matter how good you are. That's what this country was built on. You stud player, you get the same as the 13th best player. And you'll like it. Because that's what kept... Oh, wait. Well, we believe in that over there, but when it comes to these high school kids, they don't even know how to spend their money. They aren't responsible for that. Who are you to say whether they're responsible or not? So they created the Rice Commission to get rid of all of this stuff, and they built the IARP, which was going to be specific for these FBI cases that we have your playbook. The NCAA, this is so bad, we're creating something specific for you guys. We've got our punishment over here, but you guys are so egregious, we had to come up with a different way of punishing you. This is the whole reason we're doing this, is so we can really hammer you. And oh, by the way, there is no appeals process. You're done. This is the penalty. Ha ha! Take it, like it, enjoy it. NC State, no postseason ban. What's that? Hold on. That's not how we do business here in Indianapolis at the NCAA. You know what? I'm pissed. Oklahoma State, you're out. You're out for the year, Oklahoma State. I'm so mad. What was it, Tarkanian, that said the NCAA's so mad at Kentucky, they're going to punish Cleveland State. I'm so mad at NC State didn't get what they deserve. Oklahoma State, yeah, like $500. You're out for the postseason. Like, look at what Oklahoma State did, what KU is alleged to have done, what is agreed upon in facts of the case with the two. And I think there would have been a postseason ban. The best thing maybe to happen of this whole thing for KU's involvement is that the IARP has KU. It's just a matter of when does that actually happen, and I don't know. But today, to me, impacts the NCAA's ruling and infractions and decisions and whatever penalties they hand down, 0.
I only had really 2 things that I wanted to bring to the table on this one.
Great.
You, of course, have already gotten to that table.
Well,
you're cooking today.
I spent a decade.
You are classically trained in talking about NCAA rulings, and I honestly, it's just been a pleasure to be here so far.
People like, those at the higher ups here were like, hey, if he's in Louisville for 10 years, he gets used to hosting a show on his own. He continues. It's like it's no offense in there, but it's like a lower level. It's a lower city, but he gets used to it and, gets better and better, although that's debatable.
Reps. Sure, of course.
Right. Really, the whole time, it's like, hey, what if we send him down there and he will be the guy that will have the foremost information on NCAA scandals and FBI investigations on campus?
We're just going to shove his head underwater of FBI investigations on an NCAA campus.
Done.
Pull him back up in a decade. You're going to look like a prune at that point because you've been so drowning in it.
I just want some freedom, sir.
The only macro take that you've already gotten to is that I have always thought that maybe the most foolish thing the NCAA has ever done in terms of its punishments is to, in this case, would be if KU were to get a postseason ban, right, to stay back in that world, you would literally be punishing kids who were, no joke, 13 and 14 years old.
Amazing.
At the time of these problems. Don't punish literal children at the time and still now teenagers for what the adults did 5 or 6 years ago. That's just a fundamental rule where I feel for Oklahoma State. I think about Oklahoma State's program more often than most because it is the perfect example of a totally imbalanced NCAA ruling and punishment. You are punishing the wrong people for the crime that someone else did. It is a totally unreasonable thing for the NCAA to even have in their bag. Postseason ban. In one way, it's helpful because it reminds you what the NCAA really cares about. They care more about being punitive than they do being reasonable and fair and punishing the correct people. That being said, maybe we are beyond that era and that's not actually a concern anymore, but that has always really gotten under my skin. The other thing was something that just made me laugh. I'm going to read verbatim the Jeff Goodman tweet that sort of broke this news this morning, and then I would like to read what his tweet immediately following that was a few minutes later. First tweet from Jeff Goodman. Breaking. Kansas has self-imposed a 4-game suspension for Bill Self and Curtis Townsend to begin this season, source told Stadium. The program will also self-impose recruiting restrictions. Self will miss Champions Classic versus Duke on November 15th. Norm Roberts will be acting coach. 3 minutes later, Jeff Goodman quote tweets himself and adds this. This originates from the 2017 NCAA investigation into Kansas. I find that quote tweet hilarious because it was necessary. We don't even remember what this is from anymore.
Do you know the date of that press conference?
No.
Because I didn't remember it. I just had to look it up.
No.
That press conference of "We have your playbook." That was the Southern District of New York Attorney General, whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
September 26, 2017. It's 5 years and
5 years.
And a month and a half. 5 years and 6 weeks.
It's been 5 years, and KU just sat down Bill Self and Curtis Townsend for 4 games on their own. It's like, we're tired of bleeping around. We don't know what's happening here.
We have your playbook, and we are going to really come down hard on you. And in 5 years, you're going to have to miss the first 4 games of that season, and you will, you know what? Your own school will say you can't coach in the Champions Classic. Take that, punk. Playbook. Got it.
Sky Moore is going to know the Chiefs playbook before the NCAA knows the improper violation playbook.
FBI knows the NCAA's playbook.
Sorry, the FBI's NCAA playbook. And it is just such a frustrating, convoluted process at this point where there is no faith in fairness, no faith in any sort of expedited process, no faith in even just like simply getting it right in a reasonable amount of time. Frank Clark got suspended because, well, he didn't get that plea done until right before the season. And Willie Gay were like, man, how how did this take this long? And here today, more than 5 years after this press conference you're talking about, from a 2017 investigation, the only way any of us around here are talking about the players involved through this are because of the ongoing investigation. This has been deleted from our memories. And now here we are, not saying, okay, the NCAA just now dropped the hammer. We're saying the NCAA might drop the hammer after this season at some point. There is no reasonable rhyme or reason to any of this to give the NCAA any faith whatsoever. And if there's anything they've been consistent about in the terms of the disciplinary process, that's the only thing they've been consistent on, is that they are not to be trusted, they are not to be waited on, they are not to be relied upon. And you might as well just let it play out and do it. Hey, KU, Oklahoma State, NC State, anybody, from here on out, no rules, just vibes. Just, hey, what feels good to you? Self-impose a couple of suspensions. Don't go to some recruiting trips. What, you want to kick a scholarship? Sure, man, why not? Maybe eventually the NCAA will unsheath their final ruling and let you know if you got close or not. But we're just throwing darts at this point. It is a totally unsustainable system that eventually, I mean, we're seeing the degradation of the NCAA in that regard, that eventually it is just going to be the sandcastle that it is. But man, it is so silly that we get this bombshell, and then 3 minutes later, Jeff Goodman hops back in and says, hey, everybody, just in case you forgot, because we all kind of did, this started in 2017.
913-912-4810. Text says, Jason, I have to disagree. Your prediction is pre-NIL. I believe this is an agreement between KU and NCAA, and this finalizes all penalties. No more on the horizon. NCAA is now toothless. Thanks. I will respectfully disagree with that.
Was that text from a booster, maybe?
I don't know.
Because, hey, that'd be great if you're a KU person.
Well, I'm just saying that could be an opinion that could be held by, some. I will say KU will find out the penalties about 5 hours before everybody else.
Yeah.
So they don't know what the NCAA is going to give them. The NCAA will send them the punishment structure. They will then go through the redaction process and then make that public along with their statements and whatever else that they'll release to the press that they will find out. Usually it's about 5 hours or so, maybe a little less depending on how long it takes to redact from when they get their punishment. Pre-NIL, post-NIL, they're not going to go back and say, well, this is legal now, so therefore we're going to change everything that we had you on before. Not how it's going to work with the IARP or the NCAA. I would be floored if the NCAA was like, okay, cool, all done. They're going to come down with a punishment. KU just doesn't know what it is, but they know that suspensions and recruiting restrictions will be a part of it.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong, but I wouldn't mind making the argument that should be how the IARP and NCAA handle it. I can do that. I could do that after the break if you'd like.
Yes.
We can
We'll
tiptoe around. I think the two of us put our heads together for a good 20, 30 seconds. We might be able to come up with a better system than NCAA has.
Nailed it. By the way, another text says, brilliant of KU that they released this when Dan Snyder, it's announced that he is going to sell the
I think you got it out
Commanders.
just before the Dan Snyder news came out.
Yeah.
Just all-time timing from the Jayhawks PR staff.
Surprised it's not a Friday afternoon one.
Seriously.
Typically, it's a Friday afternoon one. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Shane, did you like Lord of the Rings show?
No, you nerds. Talk sports. Talk about Batman.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, Dan Snyder is exploring potential sale of the Commanders. He announces they have hired Bank of America to explore different potential suitors and what the potential selling of said franchise would be. Is this the... Did the NFL owners call Dan Snyder's bluff? In that, I've got dirt on you guys. I've had a private investigator going around finding things on you. You want to come after me? Guess what? I'm going to come after you. I'm going to expose your dirty laundry as well if you want to try to make me sell my team. And the owners, whether it's Jerry Jones talking about Roger Goodell and don't bleep with me to Robert Kraft, whether it's Dan Snyder and Jerry Jones being buddy-buddy and Jerry Jones being somebody who was in Dan Snyder's corner, and as long as that was the case, Dan Snyder was not going to be forced to sell, that he no longer has Jerry Jones as an ally, that Jerry Jones is no longer saying, no, Dan Snyder deserves this, that Jerry Jones is like, my name's Bennett and I ain't in it. My name's Stu, and Dan, that's on you. Once that happens, then Dan Snyder starts floating out there on his own, and it's not exact. I mean, we just talked about sort of beating the posse out of town. Instead of getting voted out and kicked out of the boys club, the He-Man Woman Haters Club from the Little Rascals, instead of getting kicked out, well, you know what? I'll just go ahead and sell before I'm forced to sell, and I may not get max value if they know I have to sell. There's no getting around it. Okay, cool. Well, we know that you're forced to sell by a certain date. Well, deadlines spur action, but if a deadline is, I know you have to sell by this time, so you'll come down to my price, as opposed to, I haven't been voted out, I can sell whenever I want, and the owner's saying, yeah, we're going to vote him out because we don't think he's got anything. And when Jim Irsay is like, hey man, I know what a bad owner looks like, and you are awful. Like, I look in the mirror and go, boy, I've got some issues, but you need to sell your team. I wonder if this is the NFL owners coming together and saying, we don't think he has anything. This is best moving forward. This guy's got to go. Let's get it done.
It's so interesting because Dan Snyder really is in a class of his own in terms of the one guy, and I'm sure other owners would do this if they were backed into the same corner, but the one guy to come out and at every turn just say, no, bleep you, I'm in charge. He's been doing, that's his whole, you want to use the word playbook? That's his whole playbook. Dan Snyder was, hey, will you please change your name? It's a racial slur. He went, no, it's not. No, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Hail. And no, bleep you, I'm in charge.
No, I found a Native American that says it's not offensive to him or her.
Exactly. So no, we're good here. I'm in charge, bleep you. All right, cool. Well, then eventually they're the football team. And now on Washington Commanders letterhead, they're announcing that they're exploring potential transactions. I think that's kind of funny in that cosmic sense. But even here, we already knew, and we still know, Dan Snyder was not going to go quietly into that good night. I mean, even like I'm wearing a Suns t-shirt today, which is, about the on-court performance and not Robert Sarver. I'm thrilled that he's selling the team, and also that process still, he was not wanting to do it. Most rich owners of sports franchises like to have the toy. Like that makes them more publicly known that buys you fame. You can buy fame if you have the money in the right places, and that's what a lot of these guys do in terms of owning these super visible organizations. They're one of the first to hold the trophy if they ever win, right?
That's right.
God bless Clark Hunt or whatever, but he did not put his body on the field to hold that Lombardi trophy. He put his wallet on the field to hold the Lombardi trophy, right? Like that's how ownership works. Dan Snyder, every single word association game you play with him is about Washington football. I mean, the only other thing you might come up with is corruption and mistreatment and hostile work environment and racism and there are no. The only good thing anyone could ever say about Dan Snyder is maybe if you're a fan of that football team, he's the owner of the football team you root for. Even those guys don't want him anymore. His own people, his own fan base has not wanted him for a while now. This is the picture of dysfunction to Jim Irsay, who, as you said, could look in the mirror and see dysfunction, both in his personal life and dealing with all of those things, much better than Dan Snyder has, to be clear, or at the state of his organization. But I think that if Dan Snyder felt like he had any realistic remaining options other than being on a boat in the south of France, which was a real story, when the U.S. government was trying to get him to speak on the record, I think if he thought he had any option short of living his life on a boat, he would not be selling this team. I don't know if there is more or if this is finally him just saying, all right, I don't have any ground left to stand on. I guess, because I'm on a boat.
Boy, I am on shaky ground right now.
I am on shaky, you know what, almost sort of flowing ground.
This feels so this is the most unstable I have felt in a while.
It really
standing
is.
here. Now, there is a storm a-brewing. I can tell. You can see the clouds rolling in, and boy, this is as wobbly as I have felt in a very long time. No, it's a great point. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting element of owners in different sports that are being forced out by other owners who, all in one room, have really never been told no before.
Yeah.
And now you got a bunch of guys coming together and saying, oh, no, you're getting told no. No, I'm not. No. Dan Snyder? No, I'm good. Well, here's your penalty. You've got to give up command. Okay, cool. My wife will have it. And I'm such a fair treatment of women, as has been experienced in my work environment.
Everybody knows this.
That she will absolutely have the decision making. It will not be me lording over and telling her what to do. She is totally capable, I believe, on her own of making these decisions. And so I will leave that to her, Roger Goodell. I am stepping one seat over. She's got it now. Don't worry.
Which is why this statement begins, Dan and Tanya Snyder and the Washington Commanders announced today.
Mm-hmm. Because he's sitting one seat over from
Not
where
even
he was.
Tanya and Dan. He couldn't even let her name just be first to continue the illusion.
You know what, Dan? We are so mad at you, you're not allowed to vote anymore. It's going to be your wife who's going to vote on her own without you telling her what to do. Deal? I hope you really enjoy this punishment. But we are in a time where the 31 other owners are saying, yeah, it's bad for business for this guy being here. Get the hell out.
So that's it. And I'm trying to decide how tight I want to draw this little circle here.
Yeah, because it's not it's bad morally.
No, it's bad bottom line.
Business, you got to go.
This is so here's a real short version. I've just been reading up about like what Twitter is going to look like. You know, as Elon owns Twitter now, he's got some different views as what he wants like quote unquote free speech to look like on the internet, right? I was reading an article just about kind of like the path of how social media networks always sort of have that bend of like, yeah, baby, deregulate. Let's get everybody's voices out here. You know, let's get everything out. And then over time, you realize that it does begin to affect the business side, because if all of a sudden your user base now figures out that there is so little moderation of things like hate speech and you know, all sorts of negative content, that eventually your user base says, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not having a good time logging on and being harassed or seeing all sorts of hate speech or whatever it may be. And so eventually you have, over just the life of the internet, generally, once the business grows, they put some sort of more restrictions around for the sake of being advertisable. You want to be able to tell potential sponsors, hey, we'll put your ad on our site, and it's not going to be right above someone saying something super racist. Like, it's going to be a relatively safe environment for your brand to be attached to. That is the same ethos at play here. It is. I know these other owners do not want to start this slippery slope, because everybody's got stuff in their closet. You don't become a billionaire NFL owner with a perfect track record. But whenever the other owners can look around and say, wait a second here, we want to say no one here ever gets forced out. We never want to push anybody. You want to sell, you'll sell, fine. Maybe Jerry Richardson sells real quick and real quiet, and we save ourselves all the headache. But with Dan Snyder, there was eventually a plot point here of your existence is hurting all of us. And so we're going to have to make an exception so you don't tarnish the shield, the value of this billions and billions and billions of dollars organization, these billion-dollar teams within it all. Whenever you do begin to threaten that, then you say, Donald Sterling, we cannot have you here. Hey, Robert Sarver, you're not on tape with Donald Sterling stuff, but you are tarnishing what the rest of us are able to do here. Dan Snyder might have crossed that Rubicon a while back, but now at this point, it seems like maybe he's finally understood that.
And I think we've seen it these last two with Sarver and Snyder, where it's a different category than Donald Sterling, who was viewed as he is unfit to be this owner, and Jerry Richardson that was already exploring selling when some of these things came out, and it was like, well, I'm going to sell anyway.
Sweep.
Yep, let's just expedite this process.
Yep.
Versus Sarver, I ain't selling.
Yep.
Bring it. And Dan Snyder, I ain't selling. Bring it. To then Sarver selling and now Dan Snyder ultimately selling. It's different levels than this Donald Sterling and the Jerry Richardson. At least it seems like that from the outside of these are two guys that are essentially saying that I will fight you. I will fight you. All right. Come bring it because I'm not going to sell. And Sarver sold. And looks like Dan Snyder, quote, exploring potential sale of Commanders is we are exploring what we're going to get when we sell this team whenever it happens over the next 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it might be. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Somebody was like, what's it like listening to The Zone? Well, you got to take your time to find the funny.
You take your time to find the funny, and maybe eventually it'll come around and sneak up on you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so everything we planned for the first hour, we got right to it. Everything that was planned for the first hour, right up until about 9:45. We really got in depth with the, Game 3 and Bryce Harper. And,
yeah, great story.
Did you think?
Saw your tweet.
Absolutely. Did you think Lance McCullers was tipping his pitches last night?
And I'm just curious, if the Chiefs do get that 7th round pick conditionally in that Rashad Fenton trade, who could they turn that into? I mean,
is it worth the conditional 7th rounder and $1.4 million in cap space?
$1.49 million, actually, Jason.
Let's just go ahead and round up $1.5 million in cap space
I don't know,
to
it's not
then
quite 1.5.
take away some of the depth. Because now, if you take away Fenton, now you're saying Lamons.
Oh, man, you won't believe. So I looked into this last night, Jason. We have some time to talk about all this, right, Beard?
Right.
So when I looked at the Chiefs' depth chart, specifically the defensive backs,
Cynthia Frelund's coming
you're
up
going to be
next.
shocked to find out what I learned. So actually, 5...
McCormick backing down, turns, shoots.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Because there are more better, this is bad English, there are more better quarterbacks.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. Let's talk some NFL football. Cynthia Frelund from NFL Network, analytics expert, joining us here in the Zone on this Wednesday edition. Cynthia, welcome in. How are you, ma'am?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Are you a dress up for Halloween and fully get into the holiday, or a, you know what, I'm just going to chill and hand out the candy, or, you know what, I'm not even going to acknowledge it, lights are off, and I'm going to do whatever else I want to do, like, you know, watch some Monday Night Football?
Well, I really wanted to hand out candy, but no one came to my house.
Oh.
I bought so much candy, too, and I guess where I live, like, the kids, like, I mean, these kids are pretty spoiled. They, like, go to these areas. Like, I don't even know. It's crazy.
Did you, I mean, is this the first Halloween living there?
It is. I just moved this past year, and I was, like, very excited. Yeah. I thought there was going to be, I bought all this candy, like, but no.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Because, you know, like in our cul-de-sac, it was like, you know, there were a good portion, but not what it's been in years past. And so we get back from trick-or-treating, and some people are, you know, hanging out, a little bonfire at the end of the cul-de-sac, and TV set up to watch Monday Night Football, and, you know, in Kansas to play some in-game betting with the group. And they're like, dude, is anybody out? And we're like, yeah, like right around the corner, there's like 50 kids like out in the street. There's a house with 2 bouncy houses outside. They're giving away juice boxes as you walk by. It's like, do you want a hot dog? Sure. Here's some candy too. Like it's packed with people. And apparently as they get closer, they just sort of dissolve, like it's Back to the Future picture. I don't know. So we had the same thing. A lot of candy left over in our house, which I'm fine with.
Cynthia, what's the top of your big board candy wise, and then also who is off your board that somebody else might be a fan of that you're just not interested in?
You know, I think my number one thing for giving out like candy to other people, like we were talking about this, like I need it to be like in a self-contained little baggie, like so like between Kit Kats and between those like the little fun pack of Skittles, those are probably my 2 like classics. And I like anything where, like, I did have a neighbor who was giving out, like, they went way overboard and made cookies for people, which was so nice. Okay.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know if I would trust someone
trustworthy,
else. Like, unless I know you, like,
Yeah, that's...
Go ahead and leave that there for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, the thought that counts, and it sounds like you're being really nice.
What if they just hand it to you with their bare hand? Like, you can't, like, you gotta saran wrap that at least.
Right. I think my son got enough Skittles to fill a child's swimming pool with.
Oh, that's exciting. Congratulations on the Skittles.
So I told him maybe we can try this. You know, just go and get a child's little plastic swimming pool and just fill it with as many Skittles as possible, and let's just enjoy.
Totally.
Dive in there with your mouth open. Usually you want to close your mouth and cover your nose. And you know what? Skittles pool, dive on in there, mouth open.
Let me know when you do that, okay, Jason? I'll swing by.
Will do.
I'll clear up my schedule.
Plus, very sanitary. Yeah. That's the one thing you'll know about the Skittles pool. Very sanitary. All right, Cynthia Frelund is our guest. All right, trade deadline, it wraps up yesterday. So, I mean, let me just ask it from this, bigger, macro view of the trade deadline. Outside of a quarterback being traded, which, we see that in the offseason, somebody changing teams like a Russell Wilson, something like that. Outside of that level, how big of an impact can a team make at the deadline with some of these moves?
I mean, like this year, I'm not surprised that we saw the most movement in that I can remember. I mean, goodness. And it's because it's kind of following from what's been going on this past offseason, most big-name players moving to different spots, like just a crazy season overall for trades. You can make a big difference. Obviously, not for things like, what the Jags did going to get Calvin Ridley, which was a masterful move, but it's not going to change anything for this season. But, I mean, the Dolphins really made a win now. It kind of asserts your position in the league. Are we trying to win now, or are we trying to prevent someone else from winning, which I think some of these moves were a little defensive. See Chase Claypool not being able to go to the Packers, type of thing like that. So I think it really asserts your position this season, and also the lack of making moves also gives away kind of what you're looking at as well.
So in what way, the lack of making moves? Are you thinking of teams specifically this year, or just in general that if you don't make a move, you're also sort of saying where you're at, how you feel about your team?
I mean, maybe it's that you can't make the move. I don't know, but I think it's confounding that the Packers didn't do anything to help with their pass-catching situation. Like, that's wild. Like, it just seems crazy. You have the back-to-back MVP quarterback. Like, this is clearly he's throwing all of his passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. Like, that's not a normal thing, and it's not really even his fault, right? So at the end of the day, not doing that kind of feels like this concession of sorts, even if it's maybe not. And also, like, even the Rams, not getting – obviously something's weird with Cam Akers. We don't know what's going on necessarily, but, not dealing with that situation at all, right? Like, we don't know if they tried or what happened, but – that seems like a miss as well. The Rams, they need help figuring out how to keep Matthew Stafford from being under extreme pressure. So it's interesting. And also, I was kind of hoping this year maybe we'd see like a lineman move because, people always talk about that. Like, you always forget how important your O-line is. And obviously, Chiefs fans know it makes a huge difference. But, I mean, maybe that could help some people, too, see Aaron Rodgers, see Matthew Stafford, see Tom Brady.
And you know what? To see Joe Burrow, even though they addressed it in the offseason.
Yes.
I mean, they've not really money well spent, but they certainly tried to address it. Why do you think we've seen an increase over the recent years from, the NFL trade deadline used to be, yesterday was the trade deadline? Oh, cool. Yeah. And it was, came in and out with a whimper. Whereas the baseball trade deadline, months leading up to it, who's selling, who's buying, what players, and what does it mean for this team? And you need an ace, and this team needs a center fielder, and it's so talked about a lot. Now the NFL trade deadline feels like that. So why do you think the increase in rate and quantity of trades here recently?
I think part of it is we have really smart, you're getting a lot smarter GMs and people who are deal makers, like you've seen before, you used to only see a very few people who were kind of savvy with changing how the cap works. I don't want to use the word manipulating because that sounds like they're doing something wrong, and they're not doing anything wrong. It's, there's a very complex formula that is involved with how your cap works, and if you're able to use some of the levers and tools that are afforded to you under the rules and all completely like above board, if you're able to be better at navigating which levers to pull, you can create a much better team for yourself a lot quicker and also preserve your draft picks. So it doesn't necessarily need to be forego all draft picks or get this player. It's all about, you got to remember, it's future value of the potential deal to be made. Like that's what you saw with Miami with Bradley Chubb. Being able to acquire him is the idea that they'll be able to sign him to a long-term deal. Whereas the Russell Wilson deal for the Broncos became very expensive and prohibitive for that. So it's all of the different levers working together and sustaining for the future. So I just think we're getting people in places and positions now where you have teams that are more able to use their tools to the more savvy and kind of better positions. And you really do see which teams are good at that and which teams are not. It's becoming blatantly obvious.
Which teams are good at it?
You know what? I'm gonna give the Jags and the Dolphins and the Chiefs. I mean, you sign Patrick Mahomes and still are able to get the people who Brett Veach is able to acquire. Like these are good levers to pull. You obviously have a different strategy with the Rams, but they're pulling levers that they believe. Look at the 49ers. They're also able to kind of manipulate these different tools. They gave away all their draft picks for Trey Lance, which I think that was actually for Aaron Rodgers, and they didn't get him, but that's another story. And they are able to still get a Christian McCaffrey and have a quarterback that's he's already been to a Super Bowl. Maybe he'll go to another one, right? So, and you're able to see who's able to take this approach of, okay, here's the future and here's also the present. But Miami has done a good job, for sure.
Are we, Cynthia Frelund's our guest, are we seeing teams, or are we seeing draft picks change in the view from teams and their value of top half versus bottom half of the draft in the first round, second, third round, things like that. Are we seeing a change in value where the Rams are saying, first rounders, we don't care. We're going to go get known commodities and we'll pay the premium. But you know what we're going to get with our first rounder? Somebody that we know is going to produce for us. And the Dolphins that, these first rounders they got for the 49ers trade, they, package them in different ways, but they've got Waddle and Tyreek Hill and now Bradley Chubb to show for that. So those 3 first rounders, are players that 2 of them are going to be pretty expensive, and one of them is, relatively inexpensive for being a top 10 pick, but he will then have to be paid at some point. Is there a change in the way that teams are viewing draft picks as to why we're seeing this more and more, or are we losing the middle class in the NFL that teams are more than willing to quote unquote tank and lose games as opposed to just, barely making the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like if you're looking at what's going on with the Panthers right now, it feels like they're saying, okay, well, I mean, I'm not suggesting they're completely foregoing the season, but they're not really, seems like they're in accumulating mode as opposed to decision mode. I think that it just underscores how important having a quarterback that is really going to be your franchise quarterback and taking advantage of the absolute deals you need to be making when that quarterback's on his rookie deal.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things together, right? You have to set it up in a way where you not only pick the right person, and I say person because I do think if you get quarterback right, you can kind of figure out some of the other things.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have to not only get that right person, get him in the first round so you can use that 5th year as sort of like a security blanket to be able to shift things around for your cap, have the smart cap person to be able to do that, surround them with enough of the right weapons to make it happen, and by the way, figure out how to ensure some long-term stability so you're not in a situation like the Rams where, they haven't been making draft picks, they don't have any homegrown guys. It's going to be increasingly hard for them to be able to, keep getting all of these players to come there and pay the top dollar. Other than Aaron Donald, they don't really have any homegrown guys.
Is there also a more of a predictive value in position and a value that GMs and teams are putting on positions when it comes to the draft? That, it's not just where, all right, we need this guard, so let's go ahead and spend this number 15 pick on a guard, or we need this defensive tackle, whatever it might be. Because, we see the difference makers in the NFL. The 49ers and Dolphins trade, for instance, all of the players intertwined with that. The 49ers trade up because they want a quarterback. The Miami Dolphins trade back, and those picks that they get, they end up trading for a wide receiver, a defensive end. Part of the trade that they got in for the first rounder that they gave up for Tyreek Hill was then used by the Chiefs to trade up and get a cornerback. Are we also seeing teams become smarter in, and maybe it's always been that way, I don't know, but are we seeing teams become smarter in where you're spending the money, where you're allocating your draft first-round resources and salary cap to those maybe more true difference-making positions that are going to be premium in the open market?
Totally. I think, part of what the Dolphins were able to do, we didn't know if Tua, it's funny to say now, we remember in the beginning of the season when we didn't know if Tua could pass the football, but we didn't know how Tua would fare. It does show you that there is a balance between what you're surrounding a quarterback with and the actual quarterback skill set themselves. It's not one or the other. You can't, Joe Burrow really did, he's pretty masterful at creating deep passes and connecting with Jamar Chase. But remember, Jamar Chase not being there, it looks different. They'll adjust. They'll be okay. But, it is like the sum of the parts. It's not just one individual piece. The problem is you have to get that individual piece right enough in order to create the right set of circumstances. Tua is cheap. He's still in his rookie deal. Mm-hmm. He's not, you're not paying him what you're paying Tyreek. You're not doing that right now. So for right now, they're in a good spot. But it's hard to keep that sustainably going if you keep dealing moves, keep flipping the picks, keep making some of your homegrown guys, keep, if you're not going to get a right guard in the top 10 of the draft, usually, Quentin Nelson's an example. He was a left guard, but whatever. And you're not going to do that because other people perceive the value of that to be lower. So you're better off trying to trade down, acquire an extra pick in a later round that you could potentially turn into someone who knows, but also get the same player that you wanted. So it's not just, it's kind of the sum of all of the parts. It's not just the one thing being the right thing. It's all about balance. And like we said, it's the players and the teams that are able to get that balance correct. So the coaching staff to the front office to how they're being developed to assessing, it's all of the scouts, everyone working together. Like you're seeing some teams are significantly better than others. And I'm not taking a shot at the Bengals, but the Bengals don't have the same ability to sustainably put that together. It appears they got their quarterback right, and it appears they got their wideout one right. But I'm still a little concerned. I mean, with all that money on an O-line just to be under pressure almost as much as last season, I mean, sometimes even more depending on the type of defense faced. And now that they didn't spend money on their defense and they didn't create the opportunity for depth there, you're seeing these injuries rack up. And, I mean, Chidobe Awuzie being gone is huge for them, like in addition to everyone else. And, DJ Reader, like you can't stop the run. Like these are, and that doesn't even give the defensive coordinator a chance. Like it's not even his, what are you going to do?
Visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. And, that's so much a part of this that I still want to dissect and discuss as well. But when you mention that, different quarterbacks, and if you've got that, then, are you surrounding that person? Is that person good enough to then emphasize and maybe improve those surroundings to get the most out of them? Is Tua going to be a case study in a quarterback that, can get the job done to some degree versus can be putting up numbers that are all pro level where, without Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's combination, he was, a quarterback rating of 87 and 90. And now with Waddle and Tyreek and McDaniel as the coach, he's leading the NFL in quarterback rating and QBR. And he went from, 6.5 yards per attempt to 9, air yards per attempt to 6.3 to 9.6. Is Tua, did he always have this, or you're seeing what dynamic playmakers can do for someone who is good enough to get them the ball, but is not really somebody who is a 113 quarterback rating, QB?
I'm not willing to put him in the same category as I would put Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, and certainly not like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers who have done it for so many years. But I will say, like, he's not like one of those guys that we maybe thought that is not going to get the kind of second contract that would be a big deal in the league, right? So I think that what you're seeing is, you're seeing that the system is working well for a guy who they actually took the time to tailor the system for. The right coaching staff, the right situations around him, the right amount of money being allocated to help him out. I don't know how he would look without Tyreek or Jalen Waddle. I'm not willing to go there yet because it feels like there's some chicken and some egg here, right? Like you're able to learn and read defense. If you have these key playmakers, you're able to learn and read defenses at a much better level. You can see things. You can see zone. You can see man. You can see the different ways that the defense is going to try to trick you, and you can outmatch them, and that's great. So now we'll have to see what happens when we have a lot more film on what they're trying to do. Because, I'm not suggesting that they're a one-trick pony or that this is some sort of, gadget in any way, shape, or form. Kansas City fans know that Tyreek Hill is not a gadget at all. But at the same time, how do you be sustainably good once teams start to defend specifically for your set of skills in a way that's, hey, we can notice that this is a tendency here. When you're starting to get the attention of defenses in a way like Patrick gets, in a way like Josh gets, is Tua going to be able to rise to the occasion, or is this something where we'll see more average results compared to the mean? I'm not willing to go there until I've seen that, until I've seen how he responds when that type of thing happens.
It seems like, we talked about the trade deadline yesterday. It seems like early on that the trade between the Chiefs and the Dolphins has been mutually beneficial, that both teams have taken what they got in return and have, at least to some degree, tried to maximize that. Trent McDuffie has been on the field for a half of football. He'll be back this weekend against the Titans, and they've been able to go about figuring out how to run their offense without Tyreek Hill. And the Dolphins are at a different level. Like the Chiefs are 5-2, the Dolphins are 5-3 in making that deal. Whereas Devontae Adams goes from the Packers to the Raiders, and you're talking about a 3-5 team and a 2-5 team that they go to. And I don't know if it was mutually destructive for both, if it's just that one move or it's all encompassing, things like that. But certainly feels like, at least early on through 8 weeks, 9 weeks, that the Chiefs and the Dolphins both feel like they can say, we kind of won the deal. We feel like we got a better end of the deal, or we got a fair deal, and so did they, and everything's good for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ideally you'd find more of the deals that resemble what the Chiefs and the Dolphins were able to do. But at the end of the day, look, if Devontae Adams wasn't happy and didn't want to be there, it kind of didn't matter which team he was playing for, right? It seemed like that might have been the case with that one. So perhaps that's just, you have to take the psychology of the players into consideration too on that. Not to say, I mean, I don't know, but that was at least what the rumors were. But you also have to, asterisk both of those teams. Packers' O-line has not been good at all. And either has the Raiders. The Raiders at O-line, other than the games where Josh Jacobs was really able to make something out of, when he was able to have a light box, and it's like, goodness gracious, when he was good, it was much better looking. But it is very hard to throw the ball to Devontae Adams when you're on your back. It is very hard to throw the ball, period, full stop, when you're on your back for both teams, right? So I think part of that is the surrounding cast. I don't know if Devontae Adams or any, I don't think it would be, I don't know who's a better wide receiver than Devontae Adams, but, he's arguably one of the top, and it's not really about him. It's more about the scenarios that they find themselves in.
Visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. The Chiefs make a trade for Kadarius Toney last Thursday. Andy Reid had his press conference Monday. He'll talk again today in about 20 minutes from now. But said on Monday that, he's healthy right now. And we'll see, which is, you can read into it a couple of ways, right? It's like, well, he's healthy right now, or no, he's healthy right now. It just depends on which syllable has the right emphasis, Cynthia, and how you read into it. But what can a healthy Kadarius Toney do for the Chiefs, maybe this year and then maybe even in the future?
Well, first of all, let's talk about how good a trade this was in terms of the price paid. It's essentially a rounding error that the Chiefs are responsible for in terms of how much salary is going to be allocated there. So it's a really smart opportunity for almost nothing. So a really good trade. Again, Brett Veach just crushing it. But I think Kadarius Toney, it's funny how much healthier you get when you're about to catch a pass from Patrick Mahomes, as opposed to feeling like, maybe you didn't want to be in that. I'm just saying, happy equals healthy, maybe? Who knows? But long story short, as I'm looking at this, Kadarius Toney, it's all about position and the opportunity to learn. And this is where Andy Reid is so masterful, finding these pieces, putting them on the field in a spot that's going to get them to produce, right? Where did Juju Smith-Schuster become more effective? He's, not on the outside. He's not Patrick Mahomes' deep target. He is the guy who takes the underneath stuff when the other guys are deep. And you know what? Kadarius Toney will be put in the right situations to make him this versatile weapon that will be a really big problem for defenses. And again, I think he's I at least believe he's healthy, and I think the emphasis should be he's healthy right now. Mm-hmm. He wasn't healthy in the New York, but must be that Kansas City air.
That's right. Yeah, that's the old. We're 5 games under 500, and we're not going to make the playoffs. This hamstring is just a little tighter than I thought it would be, as opposed to we got a chance to win this division. I'm out there. I'm playing. Let's go get this done. So we'll see what Kadarius Toney can do and how slow they may bring him along, and if he's the punt returner and plays some of that McCole Hardman type role on this team. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Okay, they got the Titans this weekend. That line has moved from the Chiefs minus 11 to minus 12.5. They're 12.5-point favorites now this Sunday. How good are the Titans? Tannehill's expected to play, but how good is this team?
Well, it's the secondary that I'm most concerned about, because if you're looking at deep passes and what happens when teams try to pass downfield against the Titans, they just allow the highest completion percentage, the highest passer rating, and the most receptions. So just seems like a bad mismatch against Patrick Mahomes and this offense that is really proficient with the deep passing. Obviously, the Titans are going to want to try to do what the Titans, do best, which is control the clock, ball control, run with Derrick Henry, take advantage of the fact that there's, a missing piece on the defensive front. Just, obviously suspensions do that. But, it's going to be interesting because when you can strike quickly like the Chiefs can, and your secondary hasn't been really able to stop teams from doing that, it could make it for a long day.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But do you have a score or a margin of victory or defeat for the Chiefs and the Titans on Sunday night?
So before anything moved, I think it was 31-18. So that's 13 points. So it's still good.
Okay.
But it could be, so 31-18. You got to remember that adding those two numbers together matters too for how modeling is done. So I know it's a weird number, 31-18, but I think that's kind of a 13 points is it's rare for my model to ever have more than, double digits is rare, but so 13 is pretty rare.
Interesting. So almost a 2-touchdown victory for the Chiefs against the Titans based on Cynthia Frelund's model. We'll see. Certainly you'll take that and move on, and they get ready for the Jags after that. So we'll see what happens on Sunday night. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, great stuff. Very much appreciate the time today, as always, and enjoy the leftover candy that apparently is the entirety of what you bought.
Everything. I'm so thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. That's too bad. That's too bad that she didn't have anybody stop by. So excited, right? Your new place, first Halloween there. You don't know what it's going to be like, and then nobody stops by?
Renee and I had one very small Batman.
Aww.
Tell you what, little Batman got a lot of candy.
I bet he did.
And then I got a lot of candy, and I'm still working on the candy.
Open up your bag and just pour the candy in there.
I had a Milky Way for breakfast yesterday.
Good for you. Beards? A lot of people stopped by, or did you guys go trick-or-treating?
We had one.
Really?
Yeah.
You, Cynthia, and Josh combined for 2 trick-or-treaters?
Yep.
Wow. We had 2 in our family.
Yeah. I was going to say we tried not to scare them away. Maybe we tried to scare them away too little. Like maybe we needed to spookify the front and really signal this is a safe place for trick-or-treating.
Were your lights on?
Lights were on.
Okay.
And we had some red lights out front. They sort of look like spooky kind of mood lighting.
That's different. The red lights, the parents might have been, stay away from that one.
One of them was like in the bushes. They look like eyes coming out of the bushes a little bit.
Is that a pineapple on there and a red light? No, let's just go right past this house. That might have been the issue. You tried to get too welcoming.
That's a good point. I was trying to give treats. Maybe a couple tricks.
Unfortunately, there were some tricks in there. It's ridiculous.
Stupid jokes.
How about this for the Titans this weekend? Quote, secondary is most concerning for her. All they do is give up the highest completion percentage, the highest passer rating, and the highest number of receptions this year on deep passes. So luckily, that is not a strength of the Chiefs.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, MVS, probably not interested in any of that. So.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll continue rolling along. We'll hear from the Chiefs later on this hour. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, TBD. And we'll also hang out with Mick Shaffer in the 1 o'clock hour. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Don't dab babies, okay?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you to Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Got a lot of stuff still to dive into with the Chiefs, wide receivers, the Titans, Derrick Henry, wide receivers, etc. We'll hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes starting in about 10 minutes from now. We will also hear from Carlos Dunlap and Kadarius Toney. KT will be at the podium today. And my first reaction was, boy, I'm really surprised that they are going to have Kadarius Toney this early. And, you know, all of these questions that are going to be about what happened. Are you healthy? Why weren't you healthy there? Why didn't you get along? Dable, Kafka, how much interaction did you have with, like, all of this stuff that would be presented to him in his first introduction, you know, middle of the season after the trade deadline with the Chiefs. And then I thought about it, and it's no longer the COVID protocols, so these press conferences are not done over Zoom, whereas post-game with the Titans, you would have whatever players the Chiefs choose to put at the Zoom press conference. Well, after the Titans game, Kadarius Toney was going to get the questions post-game, what he's going to get today. So knowing that the locker room is open after the game, you'll talk Wednesday, do your thing. Here are the questions you'll be asked. Here's maybe a preparation as to how you would answer those and what you may want to say, what you may want to avoid. Either way, we will have this set up in a setting like this as opposed to post-game. This PR person's working over there with Andy Reid. This one's with Patrick Mahomes doing all of that, and Tony's over there with 15 people surrounding him and asking him the questions and firing at him about the New York Giants and what took place. So, makes sense once I sat back and thought about it. But still, we'll get Kadarius Toney today.
And in just a little inside baseball element, the Chiefs really do not let players who are injured talk. You didn't hear from Harrison Butker at any point while he was rehabbing his ankle. And in fact, I mean, other teams not doing it that way has been a surprise to me because I just, you know, have only ever been around the Chiefs in terms of covering a team, realizing that there are guys who will come out and say, yeah, I think I'll probably be good to play this weekend. Just sort of funny. But I think that probably does really mean that he's physically good to go.
We'll break, but what team was it that had, you know, injured players that talked? And I'm like, well, they're having them talk, so that means they're going to play. And it was like, no, not necessarily, because that team just has those guys talk whenever. You know, they typically are the ones that will, you know, be at the press conference.
There was some player who like literally said, probably can't go this weekend, shouldn't be a long-term thing, though. I was like, okay,
but let's talk about other things you want to ask us.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Carlos Dunlap, and Kadarius Toney. That's next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is a guy through the first 3 quarters of the game had a quarterback rating of. Well, now I lost that.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I will head out to Arrowhead Stadium as soon as Andy Reid gets to the podium. We'll find out those who may or may not be practicing today. I would expect most everybody to practice. I would expect Trent McDuffie to, they've activated him.
He was activated yesterday, yes.
So he'll practice.
After the Rashad Fenton trade, yes, absolutely.
Boy, it'd be a surprise if he didn't. But yeah, so we'll hear those that may or may not be practicing today. And also, I'm assuming maybe an opening statement from Andy Reid on the sentence that was handed down to Britt Reid yesterday of 3 years. Probably weighing in on that. Can't imagine how difficult that is for a father to be going through those things. The families, both involved, is just, an awful situation. Family of the victim and Andy Reid's family in dealing with a decision that was made by somebody who you care about and love, and you have no control over what's going to take place. So we'll probably hear something from Andy Reid with that today. And then Patrick Mahomes, Carlos Dunlap, and Kadarius Toney. So we'll find out what they have to say. By the way, with Kadarius Toney, Cynthia Frelund in the previous or the first part of the show, the first segment of this hour, saying from the Chiefs' standpoint, quote, a smart opportunity for almost nothing, Brett Veach killing it again. She likes her some Brett Veach, which, would make sense. She mentioned some teams that she feels like are good with the cap and trading and picks and things like that and values that they may or may not see. And she mentioned 3, Jags, Dolphins, and Chiefs, that she feels like, some of the teams that you feel like just get it and understand it. Jags, Dolphins, Chiefs, with the deals that they're making now. Not that, well, the Jags get it. What are you talking about? They're terrible. Well, they didn't get it when they hired Urban Meyer. They didn't really understand the way the world works in the NFL and the way the head coach should be interacting with said professional grown-ass men. But now with Doug Peterson, seems like maybe more of a closer to a professional run organization, and the deal that they made for Calvin Ridley that, may turn out to be a great deal for them, getting a number 1 wide receiver for Trevor Lawrence for what could be a relatively low cost. It only goes up to a second rounder if they sign Calvin Ridley to an extension. And if they do, then you'd probably gladly give up a second rounder for someone who was playing like one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL before he got suspended.
Did you see what Doug Peterson said about Calvin Ridley?
Yep, sorry. And also did take time away from, working on his mental health. So there's that aspect.
True.
Too. What did Doug Peterson say?
He said, quote, you're betting on the future.
No, he didn't. Here's Andy Reid.
As far as Brett's situation goes, I'm not going to talk about that. There's nothing that I can say that or deals with that. It's going to help us be successful for this weekend against the Titans. And Brett really said it all in his statement yesterday, which I believe is public. So with that, as far as the injuries go, Jody Fortson really is the only one that's not going to practice today. He's got a quad contusion. And then the people that are coming back here, McDuffie will be back, Yang will be back, and then we added Kadarius, which I think we know, and he's healthy. He'll practice. Fenton, we traded to Atlanta, and we're wishing him the best of luck. And we've got corners. We have corners coming back now, so we've got depth with some young guys. So we continue to utilize them and let them continue to grow, which they're doing every week. And then about the Titans, I mean, this is a good football team. Every minute that we can spend studying them, in learning their scheme, mastering it, and then mastering our schemes to play against them, I think is important. limiting distractions is important, and working hard on the practice field is important. Getting back into the swing. We've had a week off here, so getting back into the swing of playing the game. And like I said, they're good offensively. They're good defensively. At defensive front, you're going to find they're one of the better ones in the National Football League. Their head coach is a defensive mastermind. He's a sharp dude and presents you different pictures every week. He designs them for you and for your team specifically on formations and tendencies that you might have. And then offensively, you start with 22, and he's a good football player. So a future Hall of Famer, and just a heck of a player. And then special teams wise, I think they're ranked in the top 10 in special teams. So that all in all, it's a good football team. But we look forward to that challenge. That's why we do this, and it's an opportunity to go against a good team. It's important though that we have a good week of practice, and it started today. So that time's yours.
And Frank Clark had maybe his most productive game of the year before against the 49ers. Do you have anything to say to him before he left on his suspension?
I did. Just which he'll do, stay in shape. He's gone through the other process, the law enforcement process. So, but to stay in shape, he'll be out a week at him, and then he's back. But he'll do the right things. I mean, obviously he's a good player. You miss that, but it gives other guys opportunities to step up, which our guys do. So.
Coach, you mentioned Lucas being back in practice, obviously opening up his 21-day window. What about Blake Bell? Is he getting closer to return?
Yeah, Blake's close. He's close. We'll just see how he does here the next week or two, and see where we're at. But he's back. Niang worked hard. He's back in, which is, like you said, Irby. We'll see how he does. These guys that come back off of these long stints off, I want to see how they do on the field before we throw them in there.
It doesn't look like we perhaps know who's going to start for them at quarterback. With Tannehill being a little bit hurt. You know all about him. What have you seen from Willis in this short little bit you've seen?
Yeah, he's an exciting player now. And even though he's young, he's thrown a ton of balls in his time. So, and then we know about the ability to run, and he comes out last week and does a nice job. So we'll be ready for both of them in case that's the situation. So get ourselves prepared for both.
We saw the 49ers work Christian McCaffrey in right away. Is that more difficult to do with a wide receiver comes to your team just because of the way he has to learn with him?
Yeah, we'll try to work him in though. We're going to try to do that. He's a smart kid. He's been with us now a couple of days, so we've had a chance to talk to him, and he picks things up fairly easy. He was with Kafka too, so that Mike, a little bit of the plays terminology, even though they're using mostly the Buffalo thing, but a little bit of it's familiar to him. At least he has a foundation, somewhat of a foundation.
Andy, McDuffie's back now, but was it a tough decision to whether to play him or not against the 49ers or even the week before against the Bills, or where was he in that regard?
Yeah, so we try to, you know how we do it. I mean, we try to keep open communication with these guys and see what they're feeling, and their coaches know them, see what the coach sees, talk with the player, see how he feels, and then obviously our medical staff and trainers. So when it was all said and done, we just said, you know what, he needs a little bit more time. And he's been great communication-wise with us. We know he wants to play, but it's...
Nate, Andy, I know you said you're not going to talk about the case now that it's reached its conclusion, but moving forward, as Brett's father, how will you try to best support him during his sentence and maybe pre?
Yeah, so Nate, listen, that's not what this platform's for. That's my point. I know you guys have a job to do, and you have editors that push you guys, like head coaches push assistant coach. So I get it. But this isn't the time or the place. And what I say can go two different ways and be taken different ways. And I don't want to put my players in a position for that, the organization in a position for that, my family in a position for that. My opinion doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter. All that doesn't matter. I'll take care of that. We all in our lives have issues that we have to deal with. You do your issues, and then when you're at work, you do your work, right? And so that's the frame of mind I'm in. I appreciate, your concern, though. I'm not saying that, but that's not something that needs to be addressed here in front of, everybody.
Coach, I mean, you mentioned distractions, when you're talking about Frank, being out for 2 weeks and everything. We hear when there's an announcement, he's going to be suspended or he's got a court date or something. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, obviously, behind the scenes. You mentioned everybody, you have home and you have here. He's got legal different things he's got to do. Is there a support system within the organization, within the staff? Is it a position coach? Is it, and how you help guide Frank in this situation, but other situations, whether it's Willie or whatever, how that works? And maybe you could shed a little light on how.
Yeah, sure. We hired Dr. T here a few years ago here, so, and he, he obviously takes care of I hate saying it, but the mental part of it, and make sure that the guys are okay upstairs. Normally, their agents have a law enforcement part that a lawyer group that they work with. So that's how that part goes. That's basically.
Do you get involved?
And then the coaches talk to them. Yeah, so we keep open communication. Yeah.
Last two.
Coach, just want to ask about Derrick Henry, a guy that's always. Oh, sorry.
No, not sorry. Go.
Okay.
Go.
Just a guy who's always, kind of a thorn in your guys' side. I think you've faced him 5 times since he's joined the Titans, and even though you guys have been able to hold him before, he still is so explosive. So, is there any different approach going into this game, just knowing what he's capable of?
Yeah. There are going to be things that you're going to try to do to stop him. I mean, I think the whole NFL's tried that somewhere. He's a great player, and you're not going to stop him on every play. You just want to get him. You want to get the numbers up where it's reasonable of stops, and but he's a good one. I know our guys will be fired up for it, and they're going to work their tail off this week to play against him because. He's that, like I said, he's a future Hall of Fame player. You get excited about that.
Last two.
Coach, I know you guys have used Sky at the punt return position and bringing in Kadarius. Now, how much can he help with the punt return? How much went into bringing him in?
I wanted to see kind of where he's at, just shape-wise out there, running around, and but we know he can do it, and you'll see him out there catching balls with the group, the pre-practice group that goes out. So, but let me just kind of see it and see where we're at with it and where he's at. We got a couple plays in for him here and there, and so but I haven't had a chance to be out on the field with him, yet. So let's see where we go with that, and then go from there. He seems like a great kid, and he's anxious. I mean, he wants to go. And he knows I'm kind of holding back because I want to see what's going on.
Last one, Jeremy.
Andy, how would you describe Patrick's growth this year in distributing the ball, based on what the defense is giving him?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job with it. I think the older the quarterbacks get, they know when to be patient, check it down, when to take the shots, against what coverages. And I think he's there. He's now seen the man coverages early, the zone coverages, whether it's single safety, middle, in between, and then the shell coverages, the 2s, the 4s, the quarter halves. And so he's got that in the memory bank to work with, so I think he's in a good place that way.
All right.
Andy Reid's press conference is brought to you by Robert Brogdon Buick GMC and Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia. Robert Brogdon Buick GMC and Robert Brogdon's Olathe Kia. Visit BrogdonAutomotive.com. And by Andy's Frozen Custard. Andy's Frozen Custard. Enjoy the world's finest frozen custard at Andy's, made fresh every hour. Andy and Andy's, a winning combination.
Here's Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I had a ton of fun, and we were able to go around to a few houses. And Sterling figured out that she grabbed 2 pieces of candy, threw it in the basket, and then she was like proud as she walked away. So even though she doesn't eat candy, she was proud to go out there and trick or treat and everything like that.
Did people recognize you when you went door to door?
Yeah, for sure. But people were respectful as they always are in Kansas City. So they let me just kind of enjoy my time with my daughter and my family. So it was really cool for sure.
Patrick, what are your impressions so far of your new wide receiver?
Yeah, first off, he's super excited. You can tell how much he's ready to get out there and play. Physically, everybody sees how much physical gifts he has. He's fast. He's bigger than I thought, and he's done a good job of whenever he catches the ball and being able to make people miss in space. So we're just excited to get him kind of into this culture, into this team, and see what he can do in this offense.
Have you had a chance to throw to him yet?
I've thrown to him just a little bit here and there, but we'll get more work this week, obviously. Like I think Coach Reid said, we'll just kind of work him in as the season goes on, and hopefully be able to use his talent to help take this offense even to another level.
Patrick, what were the conversations like with Brett leading up to acquiring him?
Yeah, it was something that he actually approached me about during the offseason. So he's kind of kept me in the loop on everything, and it didn't work then. So you kind of get locked in during the season and kind of focused on the guys that are in the building, and how can we have success with these guys, and we've had a lot of success. And so he came to me, I think after the San Fran game, and kind of came back and said this might happen during the bye. We're talking with it and everything like that. And luckily enough for us, it did happen, and we were able to get another talented playmaker in that receiving room.
How were you made aware that the trade was actually going to be made, Patrick?
It was Brett texted me whenever he knew it was kind of done. So a little bit before social media got it and everything like that. But yeah, he's always looking to add great players, and we had competition in this room, and we have a lot of great receivers in that room, and we have a lot of great players on this team. And whenever you have more and more competition, it brings out the best in everybody. So I'm excited for that.
Patrick, can we talk about this game coming up? You guys are coming off a great game. You've had a bye week. This team is very successful off bye weeks. So how do you look at this Sunday night matchup with Tennessee with all those variables, this offense like fully clicking but having a little time in there off?
Yeah, you got to be ready to play. Last year we weren't ready and they beat our ass. So we got to make sure that we are ready to go, and that it's going to be a physical matchup, and that we're going to have to go out there and play our best football. And this is a team that is a lot better than I think of a lot of the people out in social media and media talk. They don't really talk about them, but we know that it's a great football team coming to town with to play our best football.
Patrick, this has been a team that's given you guys some trouble since you've been here, particularly even your rookie year, the playoff game. What is it about them? What is it about Tennessee that maybe gives the Chiefs some problems?
Yeah, they're talented. People don't talk about their D-line, but it's one of the best defensive lines in football. They're well coached. Coach Vrabel, I worked with them a little bit at the Pro Bowl and understand the coach that he is. So they're a great, well-coached football team, and they have a mentality they're going to come in and they're going to win. And a lot of times in this league, if you don't have the confidence going in, that's where you kind of lose the game. But whenever you go up against a team that's as confident as you are that they're going to win, it's going to be a battle. And so we have to accept that challenge and find a way to win against a really good football team.
Sounds like last year's game didn't stick well with you.
No, anytime you watch that on film and you see how you played, it wasn't just them beating us, but we played bad, and they kind of just put it down on us at the end of the day. So for us, we have to come in with a better mentality because we understand that they're ready to go. And they're going to have confidence, so we have to make sure that we have that confidence to back up our play as well.
Patrick, when you looked at all the receivers you had coming in this year, I'm sure you didn't set a timeline on when you wanted it to click, but where do you feel like you guys are? Week 7 it seemed like in San Francisco in particular worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think we've gotten better and better each and every week. That's all you can expect whenever you go into a season with a lot of new faces. But I think guys understand the offense even more. I'm understanding how they're going to run routes a little differently than when we first got here because they've seen how it's supposed to be ran during the game. And when you're on that same page, that's when our offense really clicks. And so we're going to continue to evolve, continue to get better and better. But I'm very, very, I'm very glad with what the progress has been in that receiving room. I think it'll get even better.
To say nothing of the guys you previously had here, but how much does it help having depth at that position? 2, 3, and 4 options being guys you can count on as well.
Yeah, I think we just have a different variety of guys. I think that's the biggest thing. And whenever you're kind of trying to find that right role for guys, you get to see a lot of different mixtures of personnel sets and different receiving groups out there on the field. So when you have guys that can come off the bench, quote unquote, and be like Justin Watson or Sky Moore that have speed that can still be game breakers, that helps out a ton. And so you never know where it's going to come from. Because we have a lot of speed guys, but we have physical guys as well. So we can kind of interchange those routes between all of them.
Patrick, over bye weeks, you just kind of learn things. You've done well with bye weeks as much as Andy Reid has over his tenure. Do you do more self-scout, or do you try to get away from football for a little bit? What do you feel like works best for you over bye week?
Usually for me, I get away for a little bit, and then I come back and try to get back to self-scouting, see what we did well before that and what we can do better. And then I go back to my fundamentals, and I usually get at least one day of work with just my quarterback coach and working on my fundamentals and stuff like that. So I try to make sure I kind of stay on top of all that stuff because we have that little bit of a break, and I want to get away and let my body relax but not get too far away.
Well, Patrick, you mentioned, just for clarification purposes, you mentioned earlier that Brett came to you during the offseason about Kadarius Toney. So the Chiefs were interested in a potential trade during the offseason?
Yeah, it was during the time when we were kind of bringing all the receivers in. So that was the time where he kind of throwing out different options for different guys. And, I mean, there was a ton of options, and he was going to try to work on. And we were able to get Juju and Marquez, which is obviously a great starting point because we have two great receivers that come in to add with McColl. And then you draft a guy like Sky, bring in a guy like Justin Watson. And in Brett Feet's fashion, he didn't settle. He wanted to keep getting more and more talent in that room, and he was able to still, even though it didn't happen in the offseason, bring in Kadarius. So I'm excited to add him to the room because we already have a talented room, and you want to keep adding more and more talent.
They're different players in their careers, but obviously they play the same position. What experience can you take from bringing in Josh Gordon last year and how that went and how that might be applied, or maybe you can do better with Kadarius this time around?
Yeah, it's just about getting on the same page at the end of the day. And, I mean, our offense is a hard offense to learn. I think that's why you see the receivers getting better and better as the season goes on. But you don't want to overwhelm guys and throw them in there and where they can't function and use their ability to the best of it. But at the same time, you want to give them some chances. So I think Coach Reid does a great job of that. And luckily for us, we have a lot of depth in that receiving room anyways. So it will be able to bring him in and give him as much as he can so he can go out there and be a factor for us on the field.
We'll go last three, Sarin, Pete, and then Matt.
Patrick, I know, and actually I'll have a follow-up as well. I know in Tahoe, the American Century Championship, Mike Rabel's been there.
Mm-hmm.
You guys get a chance to kind of socialize. What are the conversations like? Or do you put up a wall between the two of you?
We don't talk much football, but I mean he's a great man. First off, I think that's why his players play so hard because you can tell he really cares. He's been through it. He played in the NFL. He's won championships, and so I think he's going to get the best out of you as a player. And I think I saw that during the Pro Bowl week as well. And it's someone that I understand why his teams play so hard because of the type of person that he is as well as coach.
And then we talked to Andy. He was kind of talking about Frank, being gone for a couple games, distraction. We kind of talked about the support system, what role he plays. He's obviously in a situation with his family, kind of a moment of crisis. Who looks out for the head coach? And it's the guy that everyone turns to, right? When he's having a tough time, how do you guys try to be there for him?
Yeah, I mean, we have a great building of coaches, staff, and employees on all different levels of this building, and we all support each other. So, I mean, we're always going to be there for everybody in this building.
After you talked about the one-on-one with Nagy, what was the point of emphasis there that you guys were working on?
I did talk. I worked with Nagy on the scouting stuff, but I was talking about my other quarterback coach as far as fundamentals and stuff like that. But that's stuff that me and Nagy work every week. So just trying to let while we're gone and I get away just to hear another voice. Just went back to the guy I was with in the off season. But me and Nagy kind of went back on the scouting of the beginning part of the season and where I could be better at that way.
What was that?
I always work with Jeff Christensen. That's a guy I've worked with for the last 5 years now.
Last two, Matt and then Steve.
Patrick, you had a big night down in Lubbock over the weekend. What did that mean to you when you got the Ring of Honor?
It was cool. It was a surreal moment. It was even better than I thought it was going to be. It was just getting on the field and seeing your name kind of drop to that banner drops your names on the stadium. I mean, just something that you don't imagine whenever you go into college or pro or anything like that. But to have that moment is something you'll have forever.
Steve, Patrick, baseball question for you. Astros manager Dusty Baker talked about the lack of U.S.-born black players playing, in this year's World Series. As a son of a former pro, you grew up playing baseball. What should be done to get more black kids playing baseball?
I think they've started to kind of help that, whereas they've done this thing called a breakthrough series, which I actually played in when I was in high school. And it's grown more and more. My dad works with it a little bit. LaTroy Hawkins works with it, my godfather. And they're trying to do their best to get more, like you said, American-born black kids to grow up throughout baseball. And I think you see everybody kind of goes to football because it became such a major mainstream sport. But I mean, when I look back and I watch these games being played, sometimes I wish I was out there playing because it's such a great sport that we all love, that I loved growing up. And I think as we continue to show it in more neighborhoods, and it's not just basketball and football, I think you'll see some of these great talents come back up and kind of make that statement that we've made in the past.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
Patrick Mahomes press conference, brought to you by Xfinity Sports Zone. Xfinity Sports Zone, the ultimate sports hub experience, only from Xfinity. By Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park, the only Volvo dealership in Kansas City, where luxury and safety meet. Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park at 78th and Metcalf, or PremierVolvoCarsOverlandPark.com. And by Westlake Ace Hardware. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware today, online at westlakehardware.com. Westlake Ace Hardware. Small projects, big know-how. Ask away.
All right, so there's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. We'll hear from Carlos Dunlap and Kadarius Toney when they get up to the podium. A lot of stuff addressed there with both Andy and Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure how much time we'll have here before Dunlap gets there, but probably my main takeaway so far is that Patrick Mahomes went trick-or-treating with his family and went door-to-door throughout the neighborhoods, and you open up the door, and it's Patrick Mahomes. And I wonder if anybody thought, oh, you look just like good costume. Here's one for you. Do you want one too? You look just like, oh, thanks. And you sound like him too.
Yeah, I mean, we're just out here, time to run candy.
Hey, just throw this football for me real quick. Just, would you mind? Wow!
Do we have time to get Whoppers?
That's pretty good.
What would that? You open up the door, and it's Patrick Mahomes and Brittany and Sterling. And you're like, hey, Drew.
Or it's just one person in all of Kansas City, totally oblivious, and they just go, "Oh, that's fun. What are you wearing? A sun? You guys a solar system?
Yeah.
That's great. Here's one Twizzler, one loose Twizzler."
Guys, snacks. I put that out on Twitter, and it replied and said, "They get all the candy."
Yeah, just you want the whole bucket, or
Sterling, just dump that. Here you go. Just have the bowl. There you
this
go.
bowl is now yours.
Another text says,
Got the house.
Tweet said, "I'd faint, and my wife and kids would laugh at me."
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. How hard would it be to fight against the urge to go and grab something to have him sign it? Because he said, look, everybody was respectful and it was cool and everybody was nice, and and that's typically how Kansas City is anyway. So it was a good time. How difficult would it be for you to just be like, "Oh man, that's cool, man. Have a good night. See ya," not be like, "Ooh, where's that at? I got a football card somewhere."
The only acceptable thing is you could ask him to sign like a Twix bar wrapper.
No.
It's gotta be theme appropriate. Otherwise it's unacceptable.
Yeah, no. I mean, I would not do it. I'm just saying, fight the urge. Like because everybody would be sort of thinking like, how would I just? Is the ring camera working? Like, what evidence of this? Because I don't want to take a picture.
Can I pose with you guys in front of the ring camera?
Yes. Live view, record. Yeah,
that's actually that's a pretty funny. That's a funny little workaround there.
Dude, I don't know what the reaction would be. And I have a friend that lives near Patrick Mahomes, so I wonder if they were one of the people there.
What are your friends' bushes like?
I'm not sure. We believe this is Kadarius Toney.
Coach Reid, letting you go.
Right now, I don't really have any expectations. I just want to come in and do what's asked of me. Whatever plays, whatever I guess assignments I got to do. Like, I'm just gonna do it at my hardest.
There's a lot new going on for you right now. Do you feel like you could play at least some on Sunday night?
Yeah, I'm working towards that. I'm very eager to go out there and ready to be the player I am.
There's what do you know about Kansas City? Not only the team, but just the city before you came here.
I didn't really know a lot about the city, but as far as the team, like I know since way back when, been winning. So I just want to come in and help continue that tradition here.
Kadarius, you played under Mike Kafka for a little bit. Did you kind of see some similar characteristics when you look at the playbook, and you feel that's going to help you going forward?
Yeah, I see a few correlations, but it's a lot of differences too. I just feel like I just got to go in and attack it like I usually do.
When the trade went down, where were you when you got news that the trade went down? What was your reaction?
I mean, my reaction was kind of I was kind of shocked, but I mean, I'm always I guess thankful for the opportunity. You know, like I wasn't like. I know the business side of it, you know, like I wasn't like too hard on it, too this or that, but I'm just looking forward to the opportunity available here.
Where were you when you got the news?
I was about to get ready to practice.
Why do you think it didn't work out in New York?
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I'm not really concerned about that. I'm achieving now.
Patrick Mahomes mentioned that they've been interested in you potentially since the offseason.
Yeah.
What does it mean to have a fresh start when you're kind of wanted by a team?
Yeah, I would say it feels good to be pretty much wanted by a team, and I think the history would probably go back way a little further than that, like the extensive probably like since beginning, like before I even came into the league, where they really wanted me here. But I feel like this is it's a great opportunity for everybody. I mean, fresh start for me, able to step into the AFC and show what I can do over here. You know what I'm saying?
How much interest was there, do you feel like, from the Chiefs during the draft process?
I mean, it was a great amount. I mean, we talked a lot. But
Did you feel like you were going to get? Sorry, Seren. Did you feel like you were going to get drafted by the Chiefs?
I really didn't know. It was, you know, everything all in there. You know, everything all in there when you're in the draft. But I'm just glad to be here now.
Why do you feel like Andy Reid and Mahomes can maximize what you bring to the table?
I mean, Andy Reid, go back. He been a great play caller since we can all remember. And Pat Mahomes, he's been talented since he was at Texas Tech. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to know where I fit in. You know, I just want to come in and impact as much as I can, and you know, do what I can.
You like returning punts?
Yeah. I like returning them, but like I said, whatever my role is, that's what I'm open to do. You know, I can't really say this or that, whatever, but whatever available, I'm gonna take advantage.
Andy said, you know, one of the things he was answering a question about, he said, well, I'm excited to get out on the field with him. He hasn't had you out on the practice field yet. Just because you haven't caught with Patrick yet, right?
Yeah, we had a couple walkthroughs, but we haven't had a full practice yet.
So what now that you haven't, we're getting you before you've had the Patrick Mahomes experience, right?
Yeah.
What are your expectations going into it, having seen him on TV and everything like that? What do you think it's going to be like?
I really just, like, seeing him from the TV, I know he command the huddle and he command his offense. So I know at the end of the day, like, I just got to make sure I'm disciplined enough to know where I got to be and when I got to be there. And just let him do the rest. 'Cause I know he's talented. He can put it wherever you know what I'm saying, you want it. So I just got to be where I need to be.
Any of the other receivers give you any tips, like, you know, go live, go deep, like anything they're saying?
Nah, not really.
Last one. Kadarius, we hear a lot about when new guys come in, how extensive Andy Reid's playbook is.
Yeah.
How much have you been able to dive in it? Just how extensive is it to you?
I mean, I always kind of been a smart player, but I mean, I feel like I'm grabbing it, like I'm grasping it, like gradually. You know, I'm like whatever I pick up, they give me more, or whatever. So I just got to continue to do that, and my role will probably extend.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, there's Kadarius Toney. We'll hear from Carlos Dunlap, but don't know why it didn't work out in New York. Not concerned about that. He's a Chief now, and that is the way you answer that. When you're a Chief and you've talked with the PR people and we're going to put you in front of the podium and they will ask you about this and you're not worried about it. You're a Chief now. Not sure what happened. I'm moving on. So there you go. The interest over the summer that Patrick Mahomes talked about, interest in Kadarius Toney over the summer that Brett Veach was maybe looking to trade for Toney over the summer and talked with Patrick Mahomes. Kadarius Toney saying, you know, it's gone back much further than that. Had a lot of conversation with them before the draft. So the Chiefs obviously have been interested in Toney for a while. There's a little bit, there are, quote, few correlations between the Bills playbook and the Chiefs because of Mike Kafka, but there are a lot of differences too.
Giants playbook and the Chiefs. The Bills, because Andy Reid also says more. They're using more Bill stuff there. Andy Reid said.
I did write down the Bills. Yeah, but yes, with
I
the
knew
Giants,
you knew.
Thank you, but I appreciate the.
But we got to make sure that people know.
Nope, we do. So with the Giants playbook that Andy said they're using mainly the Bills, but there is some crossover with verbiage and terminology and some plays. So there's a little bit of that maybe he already gets, and maybe some of the plays that they've already installed for him, as Andy Reid said, that they've got some plays already for him, might be some of that same terminology and plays that they had there in New York. That, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Well, there's a play we already know that you've got. All right, cool. So we've got some plays already installed for Kadarius Toney, and it's not going to be to where he walks on the field and they go, okay, well, this ball's going to Toney because he's playing, so he's got to get the ball. This is a play specifically for him. Yeah. Well, not necessarily. There might be some design things that they want to get him the ball, but doesn't mean that's necessarily going to happen. He likes returning punts, but was quick to say, yeah, but I'll do whatever. I mean, I'm not coming in here to say I want to be the punt returner because they got a guy, and whatever they need me to do. I like returning punts, but, whatever the role will be. So there you go.
All the Veach intrigue makes a lot of sense. We expected that he liked him in the pre-draft process just because he still likes him now. The offseason one is newsworthy and interesting, but also makes sense. They didn't trade for Kadarius Toney just now out of desperation. It's like McCole Hardman got hurt, and so they pulled the trigger. Maybe the price went down a little bit, or the Giants got a little more willing to move him. That all makes sense, while also being a very interesting note to keep in mind there.
Yeah. The price tag, to me, is what becomes interesting is the difference between it not working out over the summer and it working out now. Was there a chance that the Giants were holding out with a new regime that, no, if we're going to trade him, we'd probably want this right now because, this guy's too talented for us just to give up on. And then as it went along, it was, this ain't working out. Yeah. This ain't working out. And we might as well get something for him now. And this is now what we feel the price is right for him, so we're willing to move him because he hasn't played in a few weeks because of an air quotes hamstring that is now apparently just fine, that he's practicing and he's healthy. Was not healthy on Sunday, but healthy on Monday. Yeah. Here's Carlos Dunlap.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Can you just talk a little bit about the bye week and how you prepared a big night, Sunday night, Tennessee versus the Chiefs? You guys had a little time off, how you spent that and how much you prepared?
We didn't have a little time off. We had a very good, nice bye week. I never had one like that. That was phenomenal. Got the opportunity to get a lot of things done, to relax. Got a good workout in, rode my bike to Honey to go check on my restaurant. Got with some friends, walked to eat, little things like that. Did some treatment, did acupuncture, so kept my prehab routine going as well. Saw all the people who helped keep me ready for the season while I was down there. So that's how I prepare.
So most coaches aren't like that, though. I'm sorry, Sam. Most coaches don't give you like a week like that.
Traditionally, it's been like Wednesday to Sunday. Yeah. So ours was phenomenal, and we really needed it too because we've been working hard. Training camp was the hardest training camp that I've ever seen and been a part of. So I guess that was his way of like, you guys have been grinding it out. We're sitting at 5-2. Let's look at what we did to get to 5-2 and how we could have been 7-0. And you guys get away from football, take care of your bodies, and come back and get ready for this night game.
So most people in the locker room probably anticipated that because they've been here before. Did you just find out that bye week schedule?
Yeah, I did not know. And they kept it a secret because obviously the focus is the game. And I could see how that could be a distraction if you give them that much extra time off, or anytime you know the schedule for the bye week, people start planning the bye week before the game, and that gets in the way. So we focused on the game, took care of business, and he announced it. But I did ask some former players what they did in the past, a couple of days before, so you can have an idea. And sure enough, after the game is when he said it. Yeah.
We'll see how that pays off, obviously, with the results. But do you feel differently coming back from this bye week?
I feel great. Looking forward to getting back to playing football. And I think the energy in the locker room co-signs the same thing.
Carlos, we know Frank's not going to be around for 2 games. How much does that increase your role?
I guess we're going to see this week. Obviously, Frank's been our starter, but we have, Coach Cullen. He preaches, everybody who's up is a starter. And, I call it 1A, 1B. And, the next man up mentality, step in, no drop off. You still got a job to do as well. And hold it down till Frank comes back, because you've seen what he did in his last game. Yeah. And he's going to come in hot and ready and fresh to do even more of that. So we're going to take care of our business and hold it down for him.
Carlos, you're 2 sacks away from 100. You talked about that before, the chance to do it. Potentially in Sunday Night Football, man. What's that mean to you?
That's phenomenal. I've had a couple games now with the chances to do it, and we want to get that done, obviously, so we can get over that hump. But that's not my sole goal, but that's just a milestone and something that I told my dad I was going to do. So it's important to me to get that done. But obviously, I need like 108, 110 to be, in that, legendary type conversations where top 50 ever and stuff like that. So those are real goals. But, I promised my dad that I was going to do 100, and obviously losing him this year, getting that 100 early in this season is important to me.
Carlos, you kind of following up on what Steve said. You feel, you're not an old man, as I stand here looking at you, right? But
Yeah, we look a little different.
Yeah, we look a lot of ways. Thanks for noticing.
But no, football terms, they use the same words. Yeah.
Football terms, but you feel up for it? Hey, if we need you for 60 snaps, you feel,
Yeah. My whole career, I'm used to, carrying the load. Obviously, teams now, they look at elder guys and try to limit their roles so that they have availability for, later in the season. But I've been blessed to be in position with my routine that I've been, one of my best phrases is your best ability is availability. So I always tried to do whatever it took, invested in myself to, make sure that I was available for whenever the team called on me. And I don't know if you ever seen on the sideline, regardless of when I'm playing, how I'm playing, you see me constantly doing something to stay warm or loose or like a routine or something to keep my body ready for when it's my turn to go in.
Speaking of loads, number 22, Henry, what do you do to contain him?
You tackle his legs, which you guys have seen all his viral videos. So everybody tackles his legs. Simple as that to me.
Is it there was a time in this town, obviously Christian Okoye and Barry Ward, we had big backs around. There used to be a lot of those guys in the league. He's kind of one of one, right?
Yeah, you had the buzz. You had Brandon Jacobs before him, who was probably the closest to how he was. And obviously I tackled Brandon Jacobs. So that goes to the phrase that you were talking about. But he's a big back. But obviously, we got to tackle. This is a game where we're tackling. So if you get his legs, he can't run without his legs. But he's not going to let you just have his legs. So 2 and 3 guys, whomever, one big guy, whomever, welcome the challenge and get it done.
And you don't know who the quarterback will be right now. How does that,
Yeah.
does that make it harder for you guys?
It makes it harder because you don't know, and obviously they have different game plans for different guys. But you kind of have a good idea of what both they like to feature with whomever they get, and once you know who it is, you go from there.
Couple more.
Back to Henry, obviously, big dude you talked about. Do you have to kind of psych yourself up a little bit more with his power and his presence and the way he runs downhill?
Not for him personally, but I welcome the chance and opportunity of anybody coming in here trying to disrupt with us getting to, 6 and 2. So that's the challenge that I welcome. I don't really I understand that they're going to try to do it through him. So obviously you acknowledge who he is and what his strengths and weaknesses are, and you put yourself in position to get to 6 and 2. That's what I put my mindset on.
Carlos, you mentioned how difficult training camp is here. It's really about conditioning, right? When you're facing a guy like Derrick Henry who gets better as the game goes on, how important is that conditioning?
Very good point. You just answered your own question. Yeah, when you have a training camp like that, you're built to still be strong and to peak later in the season versus peaking early. That's a lot of challenges that I had to navigate earlier in my career. Obviously, you go so hard in the off season, especially after your first 2 years in the league. You think, I got to get straight in the weight room, blase, and you're going 5 days a week. That right there have you peaking midway through the season. Then you're like struggling to get through that last half, and then hopefully that bye week's in good place and you get to reset and get like a 3 or 4 game more push. But if you have playoffs and all that after that, then you really hit a wall, especially if it's your rookie season, because you went from college to training to playing to mini camp to all those things. So being mindful and have a good routine, and then having training camps and training like that where you know when to push and pull, which they do pretty well here. I think that's contribute to their success here, and that's something that I'm trying to learn and absorb and adjust to their routine, because having Mondays off versus Tuesdays off, all these things are different for me in my career.
Last one, sir. I was just curious, any significance to number 8? Why number 8?
8 has followed me my whole life. A lot of things have benefited me with the number 8. I had 8 in high school. Coincidentally, my birthday has 2 8s in it. When I was in college and my moped finally came in, the VIN number had an 8 on it. Randomly, the hotel rooms that whoever our facilitator and logistics person is, they'll have an 8 or they'll add up to 8. So 8's a big number for me, and I have been lobbying to get it since I first came in the league. And as soon as they gave me the opportunity in Seattle, you see I went for it. Because 43 obviously wasn't my number, but since they didn't have any numbers available and they were locked with all of the D lineman numbers, that was I figured if I'm going to pick a number, I'm going to pick a ugly number and make it look good.
So no Kobe then, huh? No Kobe?
No, not Kobe, but I do have a lot of respect for Kobe and his game. But Jordan's my guy. That's my guy. Everybody has a different guy. You got on the Jordans.
Jordan's my guy too. So.
I got on Kyrie's, and people have on LeBron's and all these different basketball players. But Jordan, during my era, still the lead of all time. But I definitely have a lot of respect for LeBron, what he does as an athlete and a businessman, and that's something I aspire to do. So a lot of hats off to him as well.
Just real quick, you mentioned a restaurant. What kind of restaurant?
I have the best brunch in Miami, actually. When I signed here, the news had just came out that we got nominated for the best brunch in Miami for 22. So it's called Honey Uninhibited. And if you guys are in Miami, go down there and have brunch and let them know, and I'll get you some mimosas or something.
Discount?
Yes, mimosa. The mimosa is a discount. Thank you.
So there you go. I mean, it's a brunch spot. Everybody knows it's a brunch spot. Honey Inhibited. Mimosas discounted. Just tell them that Carlos Dunlap sent you. No. Carlos sent me. He said there's a discount on mimosas. Yeah. It's a happy hour discount. Yeah, it's the same thing as the discount double check and the Patrick Price. Everybody gets the same thing.
Wow,
right?
that's a
Andy
good
Reid,
call.
Everybody gets it.
Wow.
Yeah, go down and get a discount on mimosas as long as you're there on Tuesdays at 10:30.
Go to Honey Uninhibited and ask for a jazz bath.
Just
hey,
tell
don't do that.
Just tell him.
Don't do that to anybody.
Hey, manager, Carlos told me to say, the crow flies at midnight. Oh, well, you got 15% off on your mimosa.
Oh, you've already had 15 mimosas. Okay, no more. No more for you.
There we go.
You're cutting you off.
So that was an entertaining round of press conferences.
It really was.
Andy Reid, a number of things to take away from that. Patrick Mahomes, same thing. Kadarius Toney as well. And Carlos Dunlap was an enjoyable listen to that press conference. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Because now you can't even get a good Kai something latte tea at Starbucks.
That's a chai tea,
Yeah,
Jason.
chai, yeah. Sorry, whatever. Chai tea. Kai, chai, kai, zai, zai, kai, zai, zai, kai, zai. Cobra Kai tea.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock. Some shot clock reviews later on in the show as well. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Kadarius Toney, and Carlos Dunlap at the podium. Biggest takeaway overall from the fort? Besides the one that we talked about, which is Patrick Mahomes and his trick-or-treating.
Yeah, I think Brett Veach's interest in Kadarius Toney is probably the news hook of the day. Good to hear from Toney. Get a little bit of a voice to the face and a face to the player.
I think a couple newsy things. The interest in Kadarius Toney over the summer that Patrick Mahomes said he and Brett Veach were having conversations about, and Niang being back and the 21-day window opening up for Lucas Niang. Not that he's the answer or something like McDuffie when you've been waiting and waiting because you know that he's inserted into the starting lineup and he's somebody who is impactful. Maybe Niang can be that. We'll see. But another body that's there and a 3-week window opening up for him to play.
Quick, who's the team's swing tackle right now?
It is Jaron Christian.
Is he actually on the roster?
It is Prince
Tego
Winogo.
I believe is the first guy up. Thankfully for the Chiefs, they haven't had to see him yet because I don't think at any point they've shown that he thought he'd be that guy. I don't think Lucas Niang's going to – I know people are wondering this. I don't think Lucas Niang's going to come in and hop over Andrew Wiley.
Boy, that would be impressive. Is he that athletic?
He's pretty athletic for a big guy. That's actually true. And we don't know what his level of play is going to be post-injury, but he does immediately become this team's third tackle.
What's his level of butt? Like how high?
He's pretty
is the
tall.
butt?
I think his butt might need to be a little lower, generally speaking. But also, like he did play at TCU because he was a third-round pick, right? He played through I think it was a hip injury at TCU. Probably hurt his stock. He sat out the COVID year.
Which
and
was kind of like a redshirt year.
Then got
that
hurt.
May have needed to do that anyway with the injury as to why he was in the third round, and teams didn't even have him on their draft board because of concerns about the injury. We'll see.
And Christian and Winogo are the two. Right now, I will be curious to see if this changes. They're the two listed at tackle on the depth chart behind the starters. Darian Kennard is on the roster, and they had some thought that maybe he could be a tackle. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition. But interesting to see what they do with Christian Winogo and with Lucas Niang. Again, he has not been activated yet. His 21-day practice window is now open. So it still could be a couple weeks, 3 weeks even, before he actually returns.
So those are the two sort of newsy things, is that the Chiefs were interested in looking into trying to trade for Kadarius Toney over the summer. Also the fact that Brett Veach and Patrick Mahomes talk when those things come up, that he and Brett Veach were discussing what Toney can do. And then it comes to fruition here, and they get back together and talk where Brett Veach says, hey, this could happen over the bye week. And then he got the text from Brett Veach before it went public. So he knew. He knew first. He could have broken the news. Patrick Mahomes, just holding out on us, man. Come on. Patrick Mahomes talking about Tennessee. I thought this was a pretty straight to the point assessment of last year. We weren't ready to play, and they beat our ass. It's one thing to say they beat us pretty good. They kicked our butt. Even kicked our ass seems like it is a lesser version of beat our ass.
I agree with you. In the hierarchy of ass beating, that's pretty high.
Yeah. Is beat our ass the highest of the got our ass whipped?
I think it might be the highest of the PG turns of phrase in that genre. Which I know this also might be something that you could roll your eyes at. I'm telling you, I don't think I've heard Patrick Mahomes say ass very often at the podium, which just makes me think that somebody else, I can't remember who it was who followed up with it, but it was like, it seems like that game kind of stuck with you a little bit when you talked about it more. I think it does. I think that's an embarrassing performance for the team, and there's a little bristle to it. It's kind of interesting.
He's had how many games, without the team scoring a touchdown? 2?
I mean, I can think of 2.
That one in the Bucs?
Those are the 2 that I can think of. I think that might be the entire list. I think they scored in that Colts game where he was hurt.
They
right?
did. It was the running around to his right, throw to Byron Pringle in the end zone that put them up like, what, 7-6 or something? And
They
ended up
led in
losing
that game.
13-10 or something in that one. So, yeah, they did score a touchdown there. So I think those are the only 2 games that they've gone without scoring a touchdown. And that was a pretty bad one because he ain't wrong. They were not ready to play that game. That was lifeless. It was 27-0 at half. Final was 27-3. You got some points on the board. Good for you. You weren't shut out. But it didn't matter. Did not matter. And, of course, the 9 points they score against the Bucs in the Super Bowl. And we know what that happened. Now, that's Super Bowl. It's a bigger deal, right? They played in the AFC Championship game last year after losing to the Titans. They lost the Super Bowl to the Bucs. When you get out there and some of those emotions come washing over you, I don't think that's going to be the case on Sunday night when he sees the Titans. It's like, I'm so mad and frustrated. 3 points last year. Ooh, you're going to get it, secondary. I'm going to throw for 500 yards because I'm pissed because you beat our ass last year. But I think you're right. In the hierarchy, it feels like that's the highest of the ass-whipping descriptions.
I think that's higher than ass-kicking.
Yeah, kicked our ass is lower.
Whooping is a little more PG, I think, sounding.
They whooped our ass, yeah. Butt is when it really, you lost by like double digits, right?
Yeah, they kicked our butt, that's what you say when you...
Yeah.
I think you can say they kicked your butt if you win the game, but like they just got you, they knocked you around pretty good. Oh man, they were kicking my butt all day.
I think also the delivery, the seriousness of we weren't ready and they beat our ass. It was like he was pissed. Like he had an edge too. His ass had an edge on it.
That doesn't seem...
Typically,
that doesn't seem right.
He's more well-rounded in the way he delivers his answers. This one, edgy. Also, Carlos Dunlap. Are we maybe finding out why Andy Reid maybe has a 20-3 record coming off a bye? Now we talked about
that's a fun angle. Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit in the he's a good coach, and when you're winning double-digit games every year, odds are that one of those games you're going to win might come off a bye. So, you're already working from ahead on that aspect. But when Carlos Dunlap was almost like, chipper.
I rode my bike. I took a walk. I had some breakfast. Looked at the restaurant.
The jump and you click your heels, as you do the side click of heels. Like he sounded like that when he was at the I don't even know what to do with my time. Like just so much more room for activities. Like what do I do with my hands? All of a sudden we've got this whole week. Oh, that's never happened. I mean, I went to my restaurant. I rode my bike there. I met up with friends. I took a walk. These are things that I've never done in the past, and I feel refreshed and ready to go.
And as he said, the hardest training camp he'd been a part of in more than a decade in the NFL. This is also the first time he's gotten a real week off on a bye. Like, I think it's really interesting to correlate that to the Chiefs winning more off of byes. I wonder if that is connected. But at the very least, it's an interesting look at Andy Reid as a coach, where he's going to drag you through the summer, and then when you have a chance to just be an adult on a break, he's going to give it to you.
I got to do this real quick. I want to look up. So Dunlap. Oh, come on, computer. Dunlap with the Bengals, 2010 to 2019. So I have a point with this.
I believe you.
So 2010 to 2019, he only had, I guess Marvin Lewis was there for a while. So Marvin Lewis and Zach Taylor. So we had 2 coaches.
Okay.
Then Pete Carroll would be 3, Andy Reid would be 4. So this is the 4th different coach planning bye week. And he was not only, we got a little more time off, it was, I can't believe we got all this time off. Like, it feels like I haven't played all year. Like, that sort of feeling in his voice, just how surprised he was. Marvin Lewis, Zach Taylor, and, Pete Carroll.
And those are 3 different coaches from different origins and different eras. And Marvin Lewis was an NFL head coach for 400 years. Pete Carroll has been for a long time, but started from college. And Zach Taylor is a newbie. I mean, all of those guys have different... I bet they all have different ways of doing things. Yeah. And Andy Reid's is the most different in terms of giving you a little time to freshen up your bones.
Also, offering something that I didn't think anybody would acknowledge. He and Seren look different. I didn't think that would be acknowledged there. Necessary or not, I'm not sure. But it was a good point of like, hey, you're not old in life
You're
terms.
not life old. Your football year. It's like dog years.
As I sit here as a man who I acknowledge is old, it's like, yeah, we look different. Yes. And as Seren said, thank you for noticing. Appreciate that. But as Carlos Dunlap was like, yeah, I get it. The term you use when it comes to sports, that no, I'm ready to go. I can handle the workload. And if you look at what Frank Clark has done this year in snap percentage, the last 2 games he was at 70% and 84% against the 49ers and the Bills. And Carlos Dunlap, the last 2 weeks, was 58 and 37. Is he ready for that increase in workload of being somebody that may go up to 70% and 70 and 70% the next couple of weeks without Frank Clark? Yeah, probably. Also, quick little aside, he loves the number 8. He wants 100 sacks. You know what game number Sunday night is?
100.
It's game number 8.
Whoa.
I'm calling it right now. Carlos Dunlap gets 2 sacks on Sunday night in the 8th game this year because the number 8 has been following him around his whole life, as he said. It's been following him. It's weird. So I've never had a number just follow me. Let's look around. I feel like somebody. Oh, damn you, 6! I knew you were there again. Oh, stupid 4. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Wrap up this hour. Mick Shaffer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour, whether you like it or not. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. You're in the zone.
And there are guys you feel like are going to be. Are there guys you?
With Jason Anderson.
Boy, that's an unfortunate slip up.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Mick Shaffer will join us coming up at 1 o'clock. Shot clock reviews in the 1 o'clock hour as well.
I have a truly shocking category for one of my shot clock reviews.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll still be disappointed by it in some sense, but for a minute, you will gain some faith in me.
Jody Fortson has a quad injury.
Speaking of losing faith in the world,
I mean,
quad contusion, I think he said, which doesn't sound very serious, but
well, it's a bruise.
I don't.
Contusion and bruise, the same thing.
I don't want anything other than a mint condition, Jody Fortson.
He's got a quad contusion. Oh God, I wish it was just a bruise or something. Oh,
yeah.
But it's a contusion.
They might have to amputate a contusion, right?
Oh,
surgery, you think, for the contusion?
Oh man, I really hope that it's just a sprained ankle and not a slight tear of the ligament.
Yeah, and you hate to see a fracture, but that's, at least it's not a break. I mean,
yeah, that's true. Oof.
It's important.
I mean, it's just that his brain got rattled around and bruised a little bit, but he's not concussed.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's good. There's not a
concussion
or anything.
Do you think Jody Fortson bruised his was it thigh or quad? What was the exact phrase? Quad contusion. Do you think he contused his quad just like being like jumping too high, like being too awesome?
Yeah.
Maybe like dunking on like a 15-foot rim.
Yeah, I think
throwing a football over those mountains.
I think contused your quad is the right terminology, the right way to phrase that.
I'm pretty sure
I think
it
that's
is.
correct usage of the word contused.
Yeah. I did my own research on this one, Jason. I'm pretty sure I'm qualified.
When you first said that, I was kind of contused as to what you were discussing.
You could be contusing.
But then I realized, wait a minute, he knows what he's talking about, and it kind of bruised my ego.
Well, at least it didn't contuse your ego.
Nope, it did not.
That would be hard to recover from. Gotta ice up your ego.
Like Kadarius Toney asking about, working with Patrick Mahomes. He gave kind of an Eric Bieniemy chuckle of like, hey, have you talked to other wide receivers? I'll say this. Now, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and then he said, I got to make sure that I'm disciplined to be where I need to be. And he's going to put the ball wherever he wants.
All good things to say.
Yeah.
He's right.
But I have to know where I'm supposed to be on every play because he's going to put it there. Mick Shaffer next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I just play a braggadocio badass on the radio. In real life, I am very humble.
If I ever host a career day.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, Mick Shaffer hanging out with us here, KSHB 41 Sports Director. A lot of news to start the show today. You know, we had planned to talk about a few things in the first hour that we still have yet to get to.
I have a Rashad Fenton take. The people need it.
They have been waiting with bated breath. Once Rashad Fenton was traded yesterday, like, God, what does Josh Brisco think of this? Let me go to Twitter. Oh, got his take. Thanks.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then, you know, we had to get to those World Series takes, conversations around that as well.
Who's winning that?
Who's playing in that?
Who's playing in that?
I believe it's the Texans and Eagles.
It's the trash can team and the big green one.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how I remember it.
It's all the Fanatics that were there versus the Cans and the Fanatics just going head to head. Thursday night baseball.
Oh yeah, we're getting that
Thursday night
same matchup.
Boot ball.
Two sports.
Oh, I like it.
Houston, Philadelphia. Well, you won't once you start watching Thursday night football.
I hate it.
Yes.
But I mean, the idea of it's very cool.
Texans, Eagles in Houston. Phillies, Astros in Philly.
Although there's been a
the stakes could not be more different.
More of a swing and a miss year on primetime football this year.
It's been rough. I thought Monday was going to be a more entertaining game. Then I realized that Joe Burrow didn't have Jamar Chase, and I'm like, oh wait, that's right. He takes his. Turns out Jamar Chase is the cape.
He's facing a team with a pass rush,
and doesn't have his cape.
I like that. I like that Joe Burrow becomes Joe Cool or Joey Butter whenever he puts on Jamar Chase.
No.
He just puts his arms around his neck like a cape. It's just Jamar Chase, but he's wearing him like a cape.
He's Steven Urkel. With Jamar Chase, he's Stephon Urkel. All of a sudden, he is the cool guy. And
all you got to do is put on your Jamar Chase glasses.
That's exactly right. And Laura does want Stephon. Not Steven. She wants Stephon. You feeling better, Mick?
I am.
You gotten over that Oklahoma State whipping?
It's a 48-0 flu. That's what I had.
Gotta be.
It'll get you.
Wildcat fever.
Yeah. It
takes
will
place.
Get you.
Can you imagine how long you'd be out if they got to 50?
The 50 burger flu.
Listen, as I told all my OU fans, all my OU friends out there, at least we didn't lose 49-0. Like you did.
That's a great point.
Wow. Losers.
And K-State's not even like your main rival, where that would be losing to your main rival by 49.
We gave up one more scoring drive, but they were 2 field goals, not that one touchdown.
That's a good point. Take that, Todd. All walking around here boasting, we didn't lose 48-0, didn't it? It's 49-0. Yeah, take that, Todd. Yeah.
My daughter, who is so sweet and nice and doesn't care, she just wants both teams to have fun.
That's why she's sweet and nice.
She wants both teams to have fun. Sat with me in her orange. And then after the game, she's like, Dad, you kept telling me we need to stop and a score. I'm like, I did. Did we get those? I'm like, no, we didn't get like one of those. A stop or a score.
41-0. We just need a stop and a score right here. Just a stop and a score.
That was more like at 14 and 21-0. Because even at 21, I'm like, okay, withstand the flurry, figure stuff out, get a couple touchdowns on the board before halftime, get within shouting distance, and go play the second half.
When did you know it was over?
28.
I knew it was over with the down 21-0, the interception. Because it was like the next play, right? They got 21.
It's all a blur, Jason.
Sorry.
There was some imbibing involved.
Yeah, no, as you showed. It was like 10 minutes left to go in the second quarter.
Would that have been after the fumble on probably the deepest penetration of the game for Oklahoma State? It was like a 30-yard pass play. He's fighting for more yardage, and he fumbles at like the 25.
I think it was after that. Yeah, I'm getting my turnovers mixed up because it was the
receiver fell down, and then
so the Cade Warner touchdown, and then I think interception
right after.
Yep,
it was fun.
And at that point, once the interception happened, I'm like, it's over. It's done. 21-0 and interception to get the ball back. Toast, done. 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. turn the lights out. The party's over. Name your score, K-State, and they did. They said 48. Let's get there.
I didn't think it was a name. Even at 35-0, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a 42-14 type game, right? I'll take O-State to cover the second half or whatever the bet is.
Boy, I hope nobody did that.
Because, one team's going to get conservative, and I think they might have. I don't know. It just didn't matter. And the other's going to have some pride, and they didn't.
I can't imagine if somebody took Oklahoma State at the half to where, like, you know what, just the halftime line. I think they win the second half by minus 2.5 Oklahoma State. All right, I'll take that.
Yeah, sure.
They did not.
Even getting your ass kicked, that happens most of the time, getting your ass kicked.
That's right.
Because team just downshift, and no, didn't happen. So there you go.
So right before the show started, news came down, in case people have not heard, that KU has announced that Bill Self and Curtis Townsend will serve a self-imposed 4-game suspension to start the season. He will miss the Duke Champions Classic game, which is the 3rd game of the season. And they also imposed recruiting restrictions, which we discussed over the summer.
They're retroactive, right? Because he's already been home for him.
Right, and so they're probably just announcing that, hey, we have self-imposed these penalties, recruiting restrictions, which happened with Self and Townsend in the open periods for the AAU summer evals, that Bill Self and Curtis Townsend were not present at any of them. There's your recruiting restrictions, and then the 4-game suspension for both, starting against Nebraska Omaha in 5 days on November 7th when they play their first game. And Norm Roberts will be the acting coach for those 4 games. And then they'll be waiting for the NCAA to hand down their penalty whenever they decide to do it. Which, I mean, look, the college basketball insiders that had said, with the Bill self-imposed 4-game suspension, that the expectation is that after this season, KU will find out what their punishment is. Like,
give me a break.
Sure, you go with that. You go with that, because
I heard that like 3 years ago.
Weren't there like rumors or whispers that right before the Big 12 tournament, something was going to come down and Bill Self was going to be suspended for the Big 12 tournament and maybe even the NCAA tournament? And so it's right around the corner. This is happening. Think about this as you get ready to make out your bracket, because they may. And now, then the whole summer happens, and then they're getting ready to start the basketball season 5 days from now.
I remember when he sat himself down in June, right? Was it June or July? That you're like, okay, it's happening, because you thought that was, going to be decreed from the IARP or the NCAA, when in fact it was just self-imposed.
It could have been self-imposed for himself and the program.
Every time we've said it today, we've implied the pun, I think, just so you know.
But that was late July.
Neither have I.
When word got out that it was like, hey, by the way, anybody else notice that Bill Self and Curtis Townsend have been nowhere to be seen? Well, they're making their championship rounds. They don't have to be here. They're barnstorming, and they're doing their caravan tour through the state of Kansas because they won a championship.
Regardless of punishment, honestly, at this point, this has worked out well for KU.
Well, they got
because of their championship. And at this point, this time last year, they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep that 2018 Final Four banner. Now it's like, okay, whatever. we got blown out by Villanova.
Here's the thing. You get your choice, KU. You get a postseason ban and keep the banner, or no postseason ban and 2018 Final Four banner comes down.
Bye-bye. We have a guy up there already. Yeah. He's it's Zeke up there. He's taking it down.
We actually got Katniss. She's just going to shoot him, pull an arrow, and just take it down. Aren't they raising another banner Thursday? Yeah. Not the championship. That happened, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was late night.
But there's like talk about another banner going up on Thursday night when they play Pitt State for some.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe it's the.
It's the defeated IARP banner they're going to raise. They're going to say 2022 IARP champions.
It's going to be last 4 standing 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. I like
One of the last 4 teams in the tournament 2018. See that? We got all these Final Fours and a last 4.
The April quartet.
I was going to say remaining quartet. God.
April Quartet.
And I'm not going to interrupt Mick. I'm going to let Mick finish it. There's no way he's going to say the word quartet. Damn!
I mean, if that happens, we're getting a really good idea of what the NCAA was going to give them in a punishment anyway. Of that banner's coming down, suspension and some recruiting restrictions. I would just replace that banner with another one.
So answer me this. You're an authority on this.
I am not the authority.
Much more so than I am. Has this thing lasted longer than the IARP has lasted? Because it's been dissolved, right?
That's right.
And it started right around the start of the case, right? Or
No, it started because they developed the Rice Commission because of this whole case. Like the whole FBI
how
thing.
long before the case was it enacted?
The IARP?
IRP, yeah.
With Kansas specifically, or
No, just
the FBI?
when was it? When did they develop that committee? I thought it was
a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Because, again, this committee, the IARP, was developed specifically out of the FBI investigation.
Yes.
And what happened, that they get the Rice Commission, they all come together and say, how do we then
This is
enact
encompass
this?
the history, the
Yes.
lifespan of the IARP.
That's right. The IARP has now been dissolved, and Kansas is still going through the IARP process, which is no longer a thing, yet they've been grandfathered in. So if you no longer have the IARP, then who actually hears the case when KU goes
How
in
many
front
other
of you?
cases did the IARP hear? Did they
NC
rule
State,
on anything else?
NC State they ruled on. Memphis they ruled on, but Memphis was different than NC State.
Was the Oklahoma State? Was that
was
part of it?
That
Or
was NCAA.
Okay.
See, that's the thing.
See,
is
you are an authority on this.
NCAA punishment was postseason ban. IARP with NC State was we don't want to punish the current team for what took place for people that are no longer around this program.
Oh, God, what did the current do wrong? I have a banner update.
They got punished last year. The first year, they had a horrible season.
Yeah, but the NCAA gave the postseason ban to Oklahoma State. If Kansas was going through the NCAA infractions process and not the IARP, they would have a postseason ban. I am convinced that would be the case, but when the IARP last December ruled on NC State and they said, we don't feel it's right to punish these players for something that took place before they were here, I don't think KU gets a postseason ban, but I think the 18 banner still comes down.
We're going to be drawing AARP when this is done.
There it is. That's a good one.
That's the line.
That's a good one. All right, Mick's got the double fist pumps. You've earned it.
Banner update.
From Matt Tate here on KUSports.com. Most seem to believe that this will be the, quote, just load the wagon banner, which showed up late last season behind the South Basket in the student section, paid homage to the favorite saying of Self's fathers.
Yeah.
So that's been all over the place. It's one of the cooler like homages that also is a very good phrase that's showing up on merch and stuff. Just all very cool. So it sounds like that's Matt Tate saying most people expect that. I bet Matt Tate knows, but he didn't say that, so I'm not going to say that he did.
Well,
that's the expectation.
It's a couple things. One, you know exactly that phrase is from the 2022 championship season.
Right.
And there's the emotional connection with Bill Self's dad.
Right.
And Bill Self and that hanging up there. So that'd be pretty cool.
A cool addition.
I wonder what the emotions will be like for Bill Self if that's the case, if that banner goes up there.
So he's coaching the exhibition, right?
Yes.
Right.
He'll coach on Thursday, and then Norm Roberts will take over.
Take that, Pitt State.
I thought
Pitt State.
I thought
that Gorillas.
The just load the
Take
wagon
that,
banner.
Boshi.
The student section had that up during that at least that second half of the season last year. So there's a picture in the story that with the Self family by the banner as it was last year. So it might just be moving that same banner to a more permanent location.
Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Don't know if it's going to be up or on a wall or whatever.
So, Bill Self will be out there to take on Jeff Boshi. You know what, you ain't coming in here. You know what? I want to coach the exhibition because bleep that guy. All right? I'll be damned if this punk comes in and beats me. He's a Roy player. F that guy. This is Self's house.
What, he left the year before? Or 2 years before?
A couple years before,
2 years
I think.
before Self got there,
Self got there, yeah. But this is Boshi's first year with Pitt State, I think.
I want to say because he was with Missouri Rolla, right? Or Missouri Southern?
Yeah, so I think this is
Which
first
is in Rolla, right?
Yeah, first first year.
They used to be called Missouri Rolla.
Or Southern and wherever it might be. I'm not sure. So yeah, that'll be Thursday, and then he'll have his suspension. But I think Norm Roberts was on Hawk Talk last night because it's Hawk Talk with Bill Self was the first one last night. But I don't think Bill Self was there.
Did he give himself a ban from Hawk Talk too?
He did.
Come on.
Sorry, Brian.
He probably wanted.
Sorry,
he
Brian.
wanted that.
I'm going to self-impose the next 4 weeks. I'm going to have a 4-week suspension from Hawk Talk. Sorry about that, Brian.
NCAA secretly told me I'm done for good on
We
Hawk Talk. Never again. I can't. My Tuesday nights are free.
We self-imposed the suspension. NCAA said Hawk Talk. I'm out. There's nothing I can do, and it's the IARP, Brian. There's no appeals. There's no appeal process. I can't do it. I just have to take my medicine and not hang out with you every Tuesday.
No more Hawk Talk
at Johnny's Tavern.
Ah, Johnny's Tavern.
Sorry about
God.
that. I mean, he would be giving up Johnny's Tavern that night.
Yeah, that can't.
It's an exchange. I hang out with Brian Haney for an hour, but I get Johnny's Tavern.
I don't like any of the implications of this. I want to go. I want to go have Johnny's with Brian Haney. That sounds like a wonderful time.
We're talking about from Bill Self's perspective.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking about myself.
I also find it a little funny that last week at the Big 12 Media Days, was that last Wednesday or the Wednesday before?
Yeah, hey, why didn't you ask Bill Self if he was going to self-impose a punishment on himself, Jason? I thought you were a Big J journalist. Why didn't you say, Coach, any chance you're going to miss, I don't know, between 3 and 5 games this year?
Is it anywhere between that?
No, this 2 Wednesdays ago.
I had asked him about, like, I'd said that you are now viewed by some in, college basketball as the voice of college basketball. Now, where it was Kay or Jay Wright or Roy, that these coaches have retired, and now it's, okay, this is going on, a rule change. Let's ask Bill Self, right? It's freedom of movement is being emphasized. Kay, what do you think about freedom of movement? They're lowering the shot clock from 35 to 30. Kay, Roy, what do you think about this? Anything now, it's going to be, well, let's get Bill Self's thoughts on it. And he's like, well, he had the line about, well, I don't think I can be the voice of anything in college basketball as long as Calipari, is talking. And then I'm like, well, different media members like calling you. And he's like, well, you don't ever want them to call you, especially Jeff Goodman. And Goodman's the one that tweeted out today that Bill Self they've self-imposed the 4-game suspension for Self and Townsend. I just thought that was funny when I saw that it was Jeff Goodman was the one that tweeted it out. Like, was Bill Self just joking because he's close with Jeff Goodman? Or is it like there's more to it because there are some coaches that really dislike Jeff Goodman? That Kentucky makes a point of putting Jeff Goodman up in the overflow media.
Do they
he talks about it all the time.
With the peasant TV media members?
Gross!
He talks about it all the time. He's like, well, I'm going to cover Kentucky. Looking forward to my seat up at the top of the Rupp rafters. That's there. But he and Cal, I guess, don't get along. And so Cal's like, I don't want to see him courtside. Bleep that guy. So I have no idea.
Sorry, national media guy. You're not bestowed a seat at midcourt.
Sorry, Lupica. Nothing we can do for you there. My
Nobody reads anymore anyway.
Yeah. My quick take, that was the entire first
You know
segment.
where the money's at? Terrestrial television. Huff my shorts.
Sports radio. So my quick take that took the first segment was this is just part of the punishment that the NCAA is going to hand down anyway. This has no impact on whether the NCAA says, okay, we'll take it easier on you now because it shows that you're cooperating. Nope. That hay's in the barn with the mitigating factors and things like that, and aggravating factors and however punitive the punishment might be. So this to me is more of a, look, we may get like a 10 or 12 game suspension, Bill. We'll take 4 now and like 6 next year to start the season. So it doesn't ever bleed over into Big 12 play. We can split it up, whatever it might be. You're taking a 4-game suspension right now. We've taken recruiting restrictions. So whatever they add on, we've already at least satisfied some portion of that. Because again, NC State's came down midseason last year. If somehow the ruling comes in December 21st and they're getting ready to start Big 12 play and it's like, oh, by the way, you've been suspended 8 games. Well, okay, now it's only 4. Because you served 4 earlier this year. I think that's part of it. I don't think the NCAA swayed one way or another by a self-imposed sanction.
Well, if they're not,
just
then why haven't they ruled on it? I mean, I
don't think they're waiting for KU to self-impose. They haven't ruled on it because they're,
haven't decided yet, right? I would say if they haven't decided yet, then maybe some sort of
the wheels of NCAA justice move real.
They're not even wheels. They're
slow,
like whatever we had before wheels.
It's like a blocking sled. You just have to lean on it and shove it.
The blocks of justice move very slowly. But yeah, we had a text earlier that was like, hey, I disagree. I think this is KU and the NCAA coming together and negotiating this, and now it's done. So look, KU is going to find out their punishment 5 hours before we do. The NCAA is going to tell them what your punishment is. They'll go through the redaction process.
Does this
and they will then release that.
accelerate things? Maybe
No, it just satisfies some of the punishment that they'll get. So again, if he gets 10 game suspension,
to spread out the
absolutely. If he gets a 10 game suspension, he's already served 4. This will count as
They're
time
look
served.
silly when he only gets a 2-game suspension.
Well, no, because then it would have been a 6. They'd say, well, we'll give you a 6. Because it's a little, the analogy I gave earlier was, your child is in trouble and you're like, you know what? What do you think your punishment should be? And you and your wife are talking like I think he should be grounded for 2 days. But let's see what he thinks. I don't know, maybe grounded for 2 days. Yeah, that's a good start. We talked, and probably 3 days is what we're going to go with, because I'll be damned if you pick your punishment. That's not the case. But no, I don't think it sways the NCAA one way or another. I think the banner ultimately, because they vacated the wins at NC State, did not take them out of a postseason. I think those wins will be vacated with KU, which means that the 18 banner, but I don't think they'll be taken out of a postseason with the ruling about NC State. If they were within the NCAA, I think they would be a postseason ban like Oklahoma State got.
I looked up today. The average stay on death row is a little over 10 years.
Okay.
So we are about halfway there.
Yeah.
Wish we were closer.
September 26th, 2017 is the Southern District of New York press conference of college basketball.
It's been over 5 years.
We have your playbook.
Yeah.
5 years and 6 weeks since the We Have Your Playbook press conference. And KU is self-imposing a few.
No one's
2 games.
translated it for us, but we do. Yet we have the playbook still.
Yeah, well, I wish it was close to the Chiefs and the Bills. With now they're using with the Giants. That there's some crossover from Kafka for Kadarius Toney.
Vacating wins is such a silly way to punish any sort of misaction. How did that end up becoming the result?
The best way to punish is to punish the people that weren't there for it.
Right. So you have your options.
That's the best option. Or just rule quickly, like a day. Back just frontier justice. Back in the 1850s, we're in Dodge City.
Took off that person's hand?
You
were given a handout,
Carlton
and now your
Bragg
hand is
getting
off.
run out of town.
We're just ruling in a day, so you can punish the people that are there at the time.
Just time behind the
5
horse
years.
and let the horse go.
I bet somebody has committed murder since September 26, 2017, and has been executed within that time.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't keep up
Yeah.
quite as Mick's looking at me like I was gonna have
Josh?
the oh actually yeah Mick, so actually there was a trial in September
My Uncle
2019.
Timothy.
Yeah, I just think it's a hilarious way. The NCAA realizes it has very few ways to reasonably punish. It is either punishing people who weren't there for the actual issue, or it is pretend something didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They're literally saying, hey, just forget about 2018. Take down that banner and unsell all the t-shirts you sold.
Also, everybody forget it happened.
Hey, just Men in Black this. We're wiping everybody's memories. 2018 Final Four, 3 teams, weirdly. I can't believe that happened, but it did.
Was that the neuralizer or whatever that thing was?
There's just a blank spot in the entire bracket that year. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
Yeah, were they the 1 seed that year in that corner? I can't remember.
In 2018?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's been vacated from my
Oh, no.
memory.
Not
It
yet.
hasn't yet. 2013's been vacated. That champion doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't even know what
Louisville's
year.
championship banner in 13 came
Sorry,
down.
There was just a fuzzing noise when you said the name.
Louisville's.
13. So I remember
That's a good
2012.
point. That's a good point. Nobody's. Sorry.
I remember 2012, and I remember 2014.
Right. You had UK in 12, and then you had
I mean,
Shabazz
just the
Napier.
entirety of the year.
I was just really busy, I think, in 2013.
Yeah,
Shabazz
I just
Napier
don't-
in 14.
Was I asleep for 2013?
Yeah.
Did that happen?
Duke in 15 with
My
Okafor
Google
and those
Calendar,
guys.
it goes December 2012
Yeah, I don't know what
to
happened.
January
Wichita State won it that year?
2014. Yeah, I think it must have been.
Think so?
Must have been their year.
No, that was 2012 when they went to the Final Four. So 2013 is when. No,
Wasn't it a red team? No, couldn't have been. Nope.
You know what? 2013 is when they went to the Final Four. So Wichita State 2013. You're right. And then 2014 is when they were undefeated entering the NCAA tournament. That 2-year run, which was phenomenal basketball.
Give Wichita State a banner. That's my new take.
They lost both those years to Louisville and Kentucky, right? And you had to talk about it on the radio.
They lost to Kentucky.
Yeah, they lost to Kentucky in the round of 32.
I remember
in
Louisville being in the
2014.
tournament that year.
They didn't
Yeah.
lose. They actually just beat themselves in a scrimmage in the Final Four in Atlanta.
You're right, which was a very strange sort of.
So
Remember that
odd.
That was a self-imposed loss.
The
actually.
controversial jump ball at the end was just 2 shockers holding on to it.
That place was packed to watch this scrimmage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't believe they lost.
Was it a block shot? Was it a goaltend? I mean, it's who knows? I'm not really sure. But I think the reason it may matter is, like, I think it matters to Jim Boeheim that he had all those wins vacated.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it matters. I think it's a silly way of doing it, as in who's going to pretend it didn't happen? I'm not saying it doesn't hurt the coaches who care about their all-time leaderboards and all of that. It's just we don't do that anywhere else. We're not vacating any. Barry Bonds still has the number of home runs he has. We're not saying, he actually only hit 430. That's not how that actually works.
No, Aaron Judge is the true rightful heir to the crown.
Absolutely.
All right?
It's just a college thing. There's a Heisman Trophy that just disappeared. I remember Reggie Bush being really good that year, but I guess they didn't really want to give him any awards for it.
Now he's doing Wendy's commercials making fun of it.
Which is great. That's right there. That is capitalism doing its job in a good way for once. That's beautiful.
So Boeheim had 101 victories vacated, which would put him at 1,099. 1,099, which would put him 50 short of number 2 all time. 100 away from Coach K.
He's going to coach long enough. He'll catch
For the
that
most
anyway.
all-time?
He's going to coach another 1,000 years.
That is true.
Right,
I'm not worried about Boeheim.
But think if he gets within 100 wins of Coach K. 101 to be exact. Then you're like, well, those wins were I bet it matters to him. I bet it'll matter to Bill Self if that banner comes down in 2018.
Sure.
It'll matter.
Hold on. I didn't say it doesn't matter. I said it's a silly punishment.
I know. Yeah, those are different things.
We don't do that anywhere else in sports. We just go, shucks, they cheated. It's like the NCAA has just been reaching for some sort of punitive measures to stop something that already happened.
We'll
change history.
The Astros are still World Series champions.
That's what I was going to
say. Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? They should be. Yeah. Because they did it. Whatever ill-gotten gains, I don't know what was in Roger Clemens' elbow, but he was a champion. I don't know what to tell you.
I do. Somebody tweeted out last night, which I thought was just a brilliant tweet, that said, love the Astros fans complaining and crying about Lance McCullers tipping pitches, and that's why they lost. But then saying, knowing the pitch didn't matter for them when they won the World Series. Ooh, it's a great point. It's a great point. Well, we lost because McCullers was tipping pitches. Oh, the being a trade. It doesn't matter. You still got to hit the ball. You still got to be able to hit the ball and put the ball in play. You still got to be able to pitch it. I know. It's
Everybody's
great.
a hypocrite.
But it's funny last night.
Everybody except for you, Mick.
I try not to be.
You're not one.
Yeah, but
not to be.
I feel like you do it all the time. So trying not to be and then doing it kind of makes you hypocritical.
Oh, dang it. Cut me.
Shot clock reviews next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Women aren't going to just come to your house and take
You
their clothes
can't-
off
listen,
if you don't have live nudes.
Listen.
But if you do, they might.
Listen, you can't hang a sign that says dead nudes.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We had up until 2 o'clock in the zone. Swim Petro comes your way at 2 o'clock. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, our guest here heading up until 2 o'clock. A lot of stuff that's happened today. The 4-game suspension for Bill Self and Curtis Townsend, self-imposed by KU. Dan Snyder is starting the process, essentially, of selling the Washington Commanders.
Working with BOFA to begin that process.
BOFA what?
Bank of America.
I see. Makes perfect sense.
Sorry, B of A, I guess.
That's right. We found out during the press conferences that Brett Veach was attempting to trade for Kadarius Toney this summer.
Why does of get like all of its letters in the abbreviation?
Because it makes it BOFA.
Bank of America.
Yeah,
Bank and America don't.
BOFA what? These letters. These letters. Got him. Got him. We found out that, Patrick Mahomes was communicating with Brett Veach over the summer that they may trade for Kadarius Toney. We found out from Kadarius Toney that the Chiefs have been very interested in him for a while, including going back to Florida. So it continues to make sense in that relationship. We found out from Andy Reid that Lucas Niang is back. His 21-day window has opened up for him to be activated. We found out that Patrick Mahomes went trick-or-treating with Sterling, and people would just answer the door, and it's like, oh, hey, that is a great costume. Well done. You get 2 pieces of candy. I don't even care that you're a dad. Well done, Dad, dressing up like Patrick Mahomes. You don't have the jersey or anything on, just a whole look-alike. It's really good, though. I like it, though. Yeah, you can take 2 Kit Kats. It's perfectly fine.
What would you do if he came to your door? I'd feel the need to just give him something way bigger than candy.
Like your respect, your love?
No, like
that's not as big as candy.
Let's say keys to my car, but that'd be nothing.
Yeah, I know he's got a Ferrari.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't think that's going to do anything for him.
I just try to stall him and tell my wife to just go in the kitchen and make some brownies or something.
Go grab. What do we got an extra bottle of ibuprofen.
Not those brownies.
I start apologizing. I'm so sorry. She's so slow. Anyway, so how are you?
Honey, the brownies. So you guys have other houses you're going to go to tonight? Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I said earlier, how tough would it be to fight the urge and the temptation to try to go grab something for him to sign?
Yeah.
Because he said, everybody was respectful. It was very cool. Everybody was nice and everything like that, and allowed him just to go trick-or-treating with his family, which is cool because, you want him, he'd like to enjoy that with his daughter. But it would be difficult for hey, honey, go make some brownies and go bring my Mahomes jersey.
Do you think anyone answered the door in a pre-planned Patrick Mahomes costume and then got very self-conscious?
How many kids did Patrick Mahomes pass while walking with Sterling that had 15 Mahomes jerseys and a bandana and a Mahomes wig on?
Had to be more than 0.
80,
and how many
84?
times? And how many times?
Oh, there's not an exact answer to this.
Yeah,
okay.
it's 84 and a half actually.
Yeah.
How many times did
hammer the over?
Did Sterling go Dada? Dada? No. I'm bigger than that.
What if Mahomes one of these years just goes as himself? Where's a Mahomes jersey? That'd be great.
But like a crappy mask.
Yeah, and then he actually wears one of those Mahomes headbands with the hair and everything.
Yeah, if the
this
Chiefs
is when
wanted
we
to
learned he shaved his head.
Oh God! If the Chiefs wanted to get some social content out of this next year, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You just have Patrick Mahomes in in the most knockoff jersey you can find, maybe some big shoulder pads, and a plastic mask with a fake wig.
I got it. Patrick Mahomes dresses up as Andy Reid in the punt, pass, and kick competition. But it's actually Patrick Mahomes going around and trick-or-treating with Sterling.
I was just saying Patrick Mahomes in an Andy Reid normal costume.
That's true. No, Patrick Mahomes goes in a Travis Kelce jersey. Kelce jersey and a Chiefs hat, and he borrows or Kelce's actual helmet.
Mahomes goes as Reid, going as Batman, eating a Mr. Good bar.
There you go.
Oh, that's crazy.
Do we have time to eat Whoppers?
I'm here.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Trick or treat. I'm here. I'm here.
Anybody ever gone as Mick Shaffer? Scott Hansen always goes through like the red zone costumes that happen. Is there a Mick Shaffer costume out there? You're on TV. What? Hold on. So. New question. What is the Mick Shaffer Halloween costume?
I don't know. I mean, you just wear a suit, I guess. I don't know. With an earpiece. And some, before I had to stand up for every show, some shorts.
See, that's pretty good. I think, like, basketball shorts and a full suited up top and then some,
people think the NBA guys, started that whole shorts with suit trend. No, it was Weekend Sports Anchors, okay?
It's the TV guys.
Right in from the baseball fields running up on set.
Right, just buttoning your shirt, the tie. You already had tie. You slip over the hair, tighten it, put on the jacket, sit down.
Maybe it's suited up top, swimsuit trunks bottom. Maybe some flip-flops then.
Sure.
That way you got business up top, party Mick on the bottom.
Got some dudes on.
Oh, the dudes is what it's got to be.
Dudes.
Okay, that's it. It's the dudes. It's the swimsuit. It's a full suit jacket and tie.
I don't feel like I have any sort of trend or something you can caricature easily. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just a normal guy.
Just get a little mic on your shirt. It's just a small little mic, little earpiece.
41 thing, yeah.
I think if we asked, I'm asking the wrong person. I need to ask Aaron and Haley what the Mick Shaffer costume is, because then I think they'd be able to see things from you that you can't see in yourself, right? Full face of makeup, that might be that might get you there.
All right, let's get into Shot Clock Reviews.
Oh,
Josh.
yeah, that's this segment.
Josh,
I've got two. I've got them both. Let's open up with guys. I have a review of a movie that came out in 1985.
Oh, really? How about that?
I really do.
Do it.
It's the Clue movie. I've actually seen it twice now. It's one of Renee's favorites. We watched it on Halloween evening. An absolute all-timer Tim Curry performance. Wire to wire, a very strange movie that knows it's strange. Like there's the pause to kind of wink at its own silliness throughout. The spoiler alert, multiple endings that come through famously from this movie are truly tremendous. Well executed wire to wire. Ages pretty well. Tim Curry is incredible. 8.5 out of 10.
Nice.
You know who else is incredible from that era? I think she was on SNL some. Madeline Kahn. And she was the one that is like...
She's Mrs. White.
She's like, flames, smoke, billowing out of my ears. And everybody's just looking around as she's trying to describe how upset she was.
It's a great
one of the great all-time scenes.
An incredible scene.
I haven't seen the movie.
Well, there you go.
What? No way.
I have not seen the movie.
That's an all-timer. Yeah. It's got Martin Mull in it.
That's a great movie.
I'll take your word for it. Wow,
You're
all three of you have seen a movie.
Wow.
How's it feel, Jason?
How the turntables
have turned.
Christopher Lloyd? Christopher Lloyd and Tim Curry, I feel like, are your star power. But all the whole crew, as Renee said, an incredible ensemble performance.
That's right. You got to pass the ball, Josh.
Oh, yeah. Beards.
Okay. Anybody want to talk about the Nets? I want to talk about the Nets. So you remember about 4 years ago when they started out, it was Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Kenny Atkinson was the head coach. Knicks fans were sad. People were calling Celtics fans bitter for Kyrie leaving and saying he was crazy. Well, everything's true. That was about 4 coaches ago now, including interims, because Steve Nash got fired. They fired Kenny Atkinson because he was playing Jarrett Allen over DeAndre Jordan at the time. Kyrie's tweeting anti-Semitic stuff now. That's great. They had James Harden. They lost him. I'm putting a rebound on this one.
Which doesn't happen in Brooklyn.
No, they don't. Now they've got Ben Simmons, who's also hurt. That's all a good fun time. Sean Marks kind of feels like it's a little icky situation going on there now. Now they've got Ime Udoka, who was the coach for the team that went to the finals, and they said, no, thank you. We don't need you around anymore. That's really not a red flag. Good job, guys. They must be colorblind. It's going well over in Brooklyn. 0 out of 10.
I was going to say another rebound?
Nope, I'm good.
3 possessions.
Beards could have done 5 minutes on the Nets, though. It's the only time that's true, but he absolutely has 5 minutes to take.
3-shot possession.
Good work, Beards.
Really lasting a long time.
Beards, who's next?
Oh, Mick.
All right, so I'd like to review my family abandoning me in my 3 hours of need Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Started with my wife, who came downstairs wearing purple because, quote, my K-State stuff is cuter. And then my son, who's a K-State freshman, who told me the night before, we're going to take these guys down, showing up in a Willie the Wildcat shirt. Who are you talking about? And then my daughter, who's so sweet, wearing orange for the entire first half, and then putting on her mom's K-State quarter zip at halftime. My only ally was in Kansas City, my middle child, who was ready to light the house on fire over that game like a good boy should. Out of 10, I give it got knocked out of the top 10.
Oh. I think you should give it a 4.8.
Knocked out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I thought about that, then I thought, no, this one's better.
I like yours.
I like yours
But
too.
there were other choices too. But yeah.
Or
good choice.
I could have given a 1, as in the number of family members I now claim.
0 out of 10 is in the number of points scored.
That's a good one.
It's a lot of weight.
0 out of 48. You could change the scale if you want. I don't know. It's just a game.
Yeah. But all's go to 48. We should just make 1 through 10 louder. This goes to 11.
Yeah, so that was mine.
It's
Spinal Tap. I know.
It's Jason.
Yeah.
It's Jason's. You got to pass the ball to
sorry.
Jason. It's all right. It's all right. I like this mechanic, but this is not how we didn't ever have to do the trick shot passes. But I really like it. It adds a nice improv energy to the room.
Yeah, Mick went behind the back pass. I appreciate that.
That was good, man.
You know what? I'm going to do my shot clock review of
only one per today, probably, right? Time wise. Cool.
Yep.
Mine'll say
the shot clock review of yesterday's trade deadline. So it started off in the morning with Adam Schefter saying, do not expect a lot of movement to take place because we've already had 5 trades, so there's probably not much that's going to happen. And a lot of people around the NFL saying, there probably isn't going to be much movement today in the trade deadline. And I think that's going back to what we have traditionally seen, that sometimes, most of the time, the trade deadline comes and goes, and it's with the whimper. Yesterday was awesome. It was fun. It felt more like baseball. You had all of these moves. It was great. I give it a 10 out of 10 because that's how many trades took place yesterday.
The Chiefs were the 93rd trade, I believe, of the season.
And
were they the last one, or were there a couple that came in after them?
They might have been the last one. Also, the local franchises getting a trade in that comes out after the deadline.
Yeah.
Whit Merrifield traded after the trade deadline, and when the news broke, it was like, well, the Royals didn't do anything. Oh, they traded Whit Merrifield.
Yeah.
It's 305. Hold on.
Trade deadline's not real. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then
It's
Rashad
like the
Fenton
salary
was like at, 304, 305 or something?
We should treat it like Eastern time. Like, it's 4 p.m. Eastern. Let's treat it like 4 p.m. Central because there's, they're not all going to get processed by
That's true.
Did you give it a Rashad Finn 10 out of 10? Is that what happened?
That would have been better.
I thought for sure that's what you were going to do.
A Kadarius Toney out of 10?
Sorry, some of my diabetes things haven't been working today, and so now it's just beeping at me.
You okay?
Let's find out.
Do you feel fine?
I feel great. I feel incredible. I got to talk about the Clue movie for 24 seconds. I feel fantastic.
All of 24 seconds. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up the show next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is going to be so stupid, but here we go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so a lot of trades going on yesterday. I wanted to play this clip because it goes along with what we were discussing yesterday with Adam Teicher. It's about 14 seconds. It's from Ryan Poles. He's the GM of the Bears. He's also
former Chiefs staffer.
And he is half of Kadarius Toney with the Chiefs now, since they sent that compensation pick to the Giants.
Mahomes said Toney was bigger than he thought. Poles is a pretty big dude, but
yeah, right?
He's probably not.
No,
he's probably
he's
not quite.
Half of
double
Kadarius
Toney said.
I know. But here's Ryan Poles. He was asked yesterday at the press conference after they traded Roquan Smith and traded for Chase Claypool about the view of the upcoming free agent wide receiver class and how much that played a role in them acquiring Chase Claypool.
That's part of my job, and that's part of my crew upstairs. Is you have to do a little bit of forecasting and looking down the road. And I just didn't feel completely comfortable with that. Not to say there's not good players there. I just didn't feel comfortable with not maybe being a little bit more aggressive at this point.
I'm not saying there aren't going to be good players there. We just don't really feel comfortable with those players and paying them money. Like, yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster is going to, he's a good player. McCole Hardman's a good player. But maybe the lack thereof, a decent amount of them, then creates Juju and McCole Hardman to be priced out of what their market value should be because somebody might get desperate. Read these to Adam Teicher yesterday, Mick. These are the names of the pending free agents at the end of this year.
Okay.
The names
receivers
that are leading in receptions this year. So all upcoming free agents. This is the rank of those with the most receptions. Here's your top 10.
Are you going 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
Okay.
Most number 1 and number 10. Number
care
1.
About suspense at all, I guess.
Okay.
No. You clearly haven't watched Clue.
Suspense does not matter. There is no suspense with these names. Jacoby Myers, Juju, Paris Campbell, Alan Lazard, Mac Hollins, Noah Brown, Marvin Jones, Olamide Zacchaeus, Richie James, McCole Hardman is 12th on that list. How about leaders
Household names
in yards? Juju, Jacoby Myers, Mac Hollins, Alan Lazard, Noah Brown, Olamide Zacchaeus, Paris Campbell, Marvin Jones, Randall Cobb, Darius Slayton. McCole is 13th on that list. Touchdowns, Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers,
same guys,
McCole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, Olamide Zacchaeus, Mac Hollins, Marquise Goodwin, Paris Campbell, Damiere Byrd, Dante Pettis, Justin Watson, and River Craycraft.
So what was that last one?
River Craycraft. Who does he play for?
That's a boat.
That's cray-cray.
That's not a person. That's something you can ride in water, right?
It's a river craycraft.
A river craycraft?
Yeah, don't put this thing in a lake. It's not allowed there.
What's
it's
it
more
made
of a
out
river.
of? It's made out of cray.
Craft. It's crafted out of cray. It's for rivers
Like
only.
you take it onto rivers to
crayons
to hunt crawfish. Do you hunt crawfish? Probably not.
Who
That's
does he
probably
play
not
for?
hunting.
New England? Or
I have no. He
maybe?
sounds like a Patriot special teamer. I don't know. That's a new name to me.
Not really sure. But point being, Ryan Poles asked, "Hey,
Cardinals?
you traded
Does
for
River live in Phoenix? River Phoenix?
No, because Dortch is someone that's Dortch is, I think, is a restricted free agent maybe. But anyway, asked Ryan Poles, like, what about the free agent class that seems to be pretty underwhelming? Well, it's my job to be looking ahead too.
Yes. And so he nailed it, is what you're saying. He's correct.
Well, we talked about this in relation to Kadarius Toney. If Toney were a free agent coming up because Juju and McCole Hardman are going to get a lot of money. Okay, so now you're looking at free agents and going, all right, you need somebody to come in that can be an impactful player. Well, you can go get Richie James. Who? I don't know. What about Noah Brown? Well, Mac Hollins is used to playing with former Chiefs and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
What about the one guy you couldn't say his name? What's his name?
What about Olamide Zacchaeus?
If you get his name correct, he'll come to you.
There's no chance. They are not going to get that guy.
Do you guys know what you might see if you're riding your River Craycraft?
What?
Dolphins. He's
in
Miami.
On the Dolphins too?
Yeah, well, he has a brother named Skyler because you have brothers named River and Skyler. Those go together.
So the Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mac Hollins.
He's also on those lists.
And River Craycraft.
Yeah.
Good for them.
They ought to try to lock up Tyreek long term.
Well, I'll tell you what, that quarterback, he's probably not doing much. Oh, he's leading the NFL in quarterback rating.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Good for him.
He took a game and a half off.
He did. He did do that. He took there was one game, no plays, another game, a bye week. Yeah, you're right.
He could have been really bad in that game.
Yeah. Kadarius Toney looks a lot better when you compare him to available receivers in the upcoming free agent market. And how much receivers are going for now? Oh.
And Juju Smith-Schuster's agent, if anyone's wondering, should have his phone on airplane mode for the next couple of months because of that list.
And you know what? Juju Smith-Schuster's agent should hope that he's Jerry Maguire. And they are going to bet on themselves. And they're going to get a big contract at the end of the year. And they're going to risk not getting injured. Just like Jerry Maguire. Same premise. Right, Mick?
Yeah, I think it was the same character name in the show, wasn't it? Juju Smith-Schuster?
It was Juju Smith-Schuster, yep.
Not Rod.
Tidwell.
Not him.
Smith-Schuster, well.
People have...